Get into the show. Okay, so news of the day. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been placed on the PUP list before training camp has even started. So let's get into the... What's that? Okay, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire may not actually be on the PUP list, but the one thing we know for a fact is that Frank Clark has not shown up to practice. He is not there for the first day of training camp. So let's talk about Frank Clark not... What's that? Okay, Frank Clark has now shown up to practice. Okay, so now Frank Clark is there and is practicing. Okay, so Travis Kelce had his contract restructured. And what's that? Okay, he actually did have his contract restructured. That actually did stay.
That did happen.
That was reported this morning and is actually still being reported as the original, moving $3 million from the back end to the front end for Travis Kelce. And the Chiefs have money in the salary cap this year, so give a raise to Travis and take a little bit more in the salary cap now versus a couple of years from now. They've got that flexibility, which shows you that the plan in the offseason is maybe at B or C or D from maybe what the plan A was. Because I don't think plan A was get into training camp and give Travis Kelce a raise and add more money to the salary cap this year and take some money away from the cap in a couple of years to free up and give us more leeway there. I don't think that was plan A, but you never know. Maybe this was step 7 of plan A. No idea. But training camp going on, practice, first one, entire team out there, and starting first team left tackle is the one that most everybody has predicted and been talking about. Of all the different left tackle possibilities there, it's what Josh said, I said, Beard said, everybody we've talked to. Roderick Johnson is starting with the first team. If you're wondering who Roderick Johnson is, so am I. Roderick Johnson, if you're just actually played for KU. Turns out played for KU, right? Didn't he play left tackle for KU?
Don't know if that's true.
I actually don't think that's true. He played for Florida State. The only reason I know that is because I literally Googled him this morning.
I have hashtag inside information, Jason, specifically on Roderick Johnson. You know, in mini camps.
You know, he was from St. Louis. He chose Florida State over not Mizzou.
That's why you're harboring the grudge. I can see there's really negative energy.
I just found that out this morning as well on the Google.
Because you're Googling who is Roderick Johnson.
On the Google machine. Yes, I found that out this morning.
You know, during...
he was drafted in the 6th round or 5th round.
160th overall in the 2017 draft. Knew that off the top of my head.
To Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Google machine.
Here's something you can't Google. During mini camps and the secret OTAs and all of that, the rules are different on like what can get reported and when you can talk about it and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say anything about mini camps other than that I was out there for one of those practices. And that I am not surprised that Roderick Johnson's at left tackle today. How about that?
So are you telling me that Roderick Johnson at left tackle playing with the first team was part of the embargoed, you can't talk about Bruno, nor can you talk about who the starting first team tackle is on this team because we're allowing you to see that, but you can't tweet or talk about it?
I didn't say that.
And you can't even allude to it as well. You can do it now because he's starting, now it's public. So now
it's public that he's there in St. Joe. Who's to say what was happening in minicamp? But I'm not surprised.
Because Lord knows.
State secrets.
Had media at the minicamp saw a fella named Roderick Johnson lining up next to a fella named Joe Tooney, blocking for a fella named Patrick Lavon Mahomes II. The entire NFL, the league, would have been crapping in their pants thinking about what the Chiefs can do even without Orlando Brown. The Bills are now reassessing. The Chargers are reassessing. Everybody's going back to the drawing board because Josh Brisco and Herbie Teope have reported that they see, and Matt Derrick, Roderick Johnson lining up at left tackle for Orlando Brown.
Just to be clear, I am not reporting that.
Oh, I didn't say you were. I'm saying that if that were to be the case at mandatory minicamp, and if this complete hypothetical we're talking about, that if Roderick Johnson were to be there starting left tackle for the Chiefs at minicamp, if that were to be the case, and if this hypothetical were to come to fruition, in which a hypothetical then was reported, then that would then create, along with that hypothetical, the entire league now going back to the drawing board, figuring out how in the hell are they going to beat the Chiefs now without Orlando Brown, because Roderick Johnson has been reported, and it was what everybody's worst nightmare was outside of Kansas City. It's Roderick Johnson. And thank goodness, for the Chiefs' sake, for Brett Veach's sake, for Andy Reid and Andy Heck and Eric Bieniemy, that you guys did not mention in this hypothetical that Roderick Johnson was lining up with the first team, because now they can just spring it on the world, and now there's nothing the Bills or Chargers or Bengals can do about it now that they're already in training camp. Boy, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, because now it's too late to adjust. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
Is if that would have come out, whatever it was, a month or so ago.
Early June.
The Cardinals probably would have been favored by a touchdown by the end of the day. I mean, that week one line would have moved by 15 points or something. Now that we're at this point, too late to adjust for that. Will it be Orlando Brown or Joe Thuney? Yesterday in Fact or Fiction, I think I said it was a fact that Joe Thuney would start at left tackle if Orlando Brown wasn't there for week one.
Yeah.
Still think that might be true. But exclusive inside information, not surprised that Roderick Johnson's starting at left tackle right now.
Let me throw a dart.
Sure.
And just take a guess here.
I can't report anything about your dart throw.
In this hypothetical, if Orlando Brown is not available for week one, let me be the first to say Roderick Johnson is not starting at left tackle for the Chiefs in week one.
I agree with that. Yes, I think that's still true.
Now you're the second one to say that.
Which I even think
I was the first to say it.
I think now, honestly, Roderick Johnson being there at left tackle, I think means that they're just still planning on Orlando Brown being back at some point.
It's my first assessment as well. Besides that, Roderick Johnson is not going to start at left tackle. Well, excuse me. First assessment was who's Roderick Johnson.
Right.
Second assessment was, oh, he's from St. Louis, didn't go to Mizzou. Shocker. Third was, oh, he didn't go to KU. I thought maybe he did. Fourth was, gee, I wonder what he looked like in minicamp. Fifth is, he's definitely not going to start at left tackle.
Yeah.
Sixth was good news, because the Chiefs don't think Orlando Brown's going to be holding out and miss game one, because if they did, I think they would already have the replacement playing at left tackle, if that's Jaron Christian, if that is Joe Thuney, if it's Andrew Wiley, and you put Kennard, who's with the second team right tackle today, then you put Wiley over at left tackle, and you just move and swing him to the left side. The fact that it's somebody that I Googled and you were very much aware of, Josh.
Very much aware of.
And this is not a surprise to you. But the fact that that's the case and it's not Jaron Christian, I would guess that they have a decent feeling that Orlando Brown's holdout is not going to last throughout the preseason games, and therefore he may not be ready for week one against the Cardinals. If that's the case, I think they would already be practicing with who they think is going to be the week one left tackle.
And just adjust, I know everyone's doing this at home, adjust your home depth charts and 53-man roster projections accordingly. Yeah, I do think, this is where I tried to look smart, 2 days ago. Yep. I do think Roderick Johnson has the inside track over Christian, and that right there, you can win some money from your friends if you get to that quick before they look at Twitter today.
Here's where I disagree.
Uh-oh.
I disagree with you. I'm gonna compare this to the running back situation.
Wow, okay.
With Clyde Edwards-Helaire either being on or off a pup. I hope it's a big pup if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on this pup.
Doesn't have to be as big as it would be for some other football players.
Okay.
If you had to put a football player on a pup.
Is it Clifford? Because Clifford pup, Edwards-Helaire could be on all day.
Absolutely.
No big deal.
Get a whole team on that pup.
Chihuahua? Yo quiero Taco Bell? Not good for the pup.
Not great.
If Edwards-Helaire is on said pup.
Yeah.
But he was on pup and now he's off pup, so not sure. I think the running back depth chart is Edwards-Helaire, Ronald Jones, McKinnon is the third down back. But if Edwards-Helaire were to get injured, I think it's McKinnon, Ronald Jones, and then figure out third down back, maybe with Pacheco or something else. What I'm saying is Edwards-Helaire is the number one. If he goes down, I think McKinnon slides into the number one, even though he wouldn't be listed as the backup. Orlando Brown's the number one. I think the number two is Jaron Christian. Roderick Johnson is a placeholder because they want Jaron Christian to get used to the second string offensive line and be around those guys, swing tackle. And Roderick Johnson is just like, that camp arm. You bring in a quarterback to throw the ball so the quarterback doesn't have a dead arm. He's the placeholder for Orlando Brown. So then when Orlando Brown gets there, Roderick Johnson just goes somewhere else, and everything else is kept the same. Jaron Christian's second string, Allegretti's second string left guard with Christian, and Orlando Brown slides right in with Joe Thuney. There's my theory.
I mean, look, all I can say is I didn't see you out there at minicamp with that secret information.
Well, there is no secret information. This is hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
It was a hypothetical minicamp.
Yeah, that's right. that I may or may it was Schrodinger's minicamp. It both did and didn't happen. It was Schrodinger's offensive line. There were players blocking and not players blocking.
Is it Pavlov's pup?
Yeah, it's Pavlov's. The pup is Pavlov's dog, but it's Schrodinger's cat, and there's OTAs and minicamps.
It's a young Pavlov's dog.
That's right.
It's the very beginning stages of Pavlov's dog.
Yes.
It's the first couple days of the experiment. It's Pavlov's pup at that point.
And me knowing about, me potentially allegedly knowing about Roderick Johnson was sort of the Chekhov's gun of me going to minicamp and setting that up and then bringing it out here in the show today. We're really just getting kind of a lot of objects / pets with famous, I think mostly, I don't know, not scientists, behavioral scientists? What would you consider philosophers?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Philosophicers. Well, there's plural, so there's philosophi. Philosophize. Yeah, but it's plural. You always got to go with the I.
Yeah, have to. Latin.
Everybody knows this.
I took 2 years of Latin in high school. I know all about the ways you end words in Latin.
Yeah, but that 2 years in Latin became lati.
Yeah, that's right. Correct. That is
plural.
It's actually latte. It's AE in that case. It's very tricky. I'll teach you during the break. I'll get you your conjugation charts during the break.
And then we Americanized it to latte, and then made a coffee out of it.
And then they made it one coffee. It's like,
even,
hold on, I asked for a latte. Why am I not getting two of these?
It's weird,
So frustrating.
It's 2 shots of espresso, though. That's why it's latte.
I mean,
Tay. All right,
I don't
enough
know
of
if
this.
any of that's true.
Enough of this. So.
Is Roger Johnson even playing left tackle right now?
What I
That's
did
true.
for the last half hour leading into the show was Edwards-Helaire stuff with, injuries and things like that, combined with some Frank Clark stuff with him not reporting to training camp. And then as the show got closer, so around 10:50 or 9:55 or so is when all of these different videos and pictures of Edwards-Helaire and tweets about he's actually practicing right now. So is he or is he not on the pup? Okay, so wouldn't take a big mark that off.
Go ahead.
All right. Page number 2, Frank Clark. And all right, go ahead and mark that off. He is there. Doesn't matter that he was not at mandatory minicamp, although that was excused because of the birth of his child. Regardless, he was not going to be at training camp either. So now it's did he get on the plane? Because Andy Reid joked about, well, Frank Clark will be here unless he doesn't get on the plane. Then we would ask Andy Reid after the practice. Well, I don't know, maybe somebody would ask him. Andy Reid would then be asked, did Frank Clark get on the plane? Did he not get on the plane? Did he miss the plane? Is he holding out? That's not the case anymore. So maybe there's questions about whether or not Edwards-Helaire is or is not on the PUP list. But we do know Travis Kelce's contract has been restructured. They have given him a raise this year. $3 million from the back end of his contract has moved to this year. Take a little bit of a hit of a salary cap this year because they've got the space. And obviously they are not in the market for, let's say, an Eric Fisher or Jason Peters, because I don't think they would go from 11 to 8 since Eric Fisher coming off an Achilles injury last year was 8.25. So is he going to settle for anything less than that when he actually played last year and played fine, and waiting around for somebody to have an injury or something like that? So we'll see what ends up happening with all of those things. We'll hear from Andy Reid sometime in the 11 o'clock hour. Whatever players they may have at the podium as well, we'll hear from them. Jeff Montgomery, Bob Kendrick, Mick Shaffer, all still to come. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling along. One of the things I wanted to talk about are different storylines that we may be focusing on in camp. We'll do a little bit of that coming up next, and then Jeff Montgomery later on this hour. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
In 600 career plate appearances.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs around 11 o'clock or so. Bob Kendrick in the noon hour. Mick Shaffer joining us in the 1 o'clock hour. Royals this afternoon. Brad Keller on the mound trying to take the series against the Angels. Talking now with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer, Royals Insider here with Sports Radio 810. He's presented by Sandlot Goods, Kansas City's only local hat manufacturer. Shop their hats and more online at sandlotgoods.com or at their stores located in all made in KC marketplaces. Joined now by Monty. Jeff, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
Well, doing pretty good. Just getting wrapped up this homestand, get ready to head out for New York and Chicago afterwards, so hopefully get another series victory here today.
Well, I mean, if they get a series victory here today, I mean, it's been a pretty impressive streak. I mean, stretch of games. It's not really a streak. It's just, 43 games that they have played, and they're 22-21. I mean, it's not where you're saying or confusing them with the New York Yankees, but 17-34, or 17-37, I should say, with their low water mark. They got shut out back-to-back games against the Blue Jays, and they're 22-21 since, and they've feels like they've just turned things around. What have you seen from this team, and why do you think overall they're playing this sort of baseball and winning these series?
Yeah, I think it's probably a number of factors. Probably more importantly than anything, starting pitching has been more consistent. So you go out and you have a chance to give your team, a chance to get a victory. I think that's the biggest thing for starting pitchers, whether it's 5 innings or 7 innings, whatever it might be, but they've done that more consistently. As of late, I think that's been a real good sign. I think you've looked to see some development from some of those young arms. I mean, Brady Singer, he's really come on and looked really, really good. Chris Bubich has looked much better. So they're starting to see some improvement on the younger guys that they were hopeful that were going to develop and, put themselves in a position to be fixtures in that rotation for some time to come. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is I think there's just been a real nice, I'll call it injection of energy from the younger players who have come up, had a chance to contribute and do some things. So just a combination of a lot of really little things that add up to a big difference. So top and bottom lineup seems to be producing on a fairly consistent basis. Unfortunately, last night was not the case, but for the most part, the offense has been pretty solid offensively.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, and one of the things that you mentioned there was certainly something I wanted to talk about, and you mentioned the starting pitching being a big part of why they've been playing the way that they have, and maybe it's more consistency, some development. Is that just simply like with the younger guys especially, is that part of the maturation process that when we watch the games go on, Monty, we're living them start in and start out, and so we're hyper-focused and really focusing more on the micro. And then when we take a step back and look at the macro and we say, okay, Brady Singer has, 50-something starts in his career? And you say, well, for a guy that's, going to be pretty good, but he's only made 50 starts in his career, eventually, and by the way, the last 8 have been pretty good. So 42 starts, and then these last 8 have been pretty awesome. So, like, we look at those things, and is it, we focus so much on the micro while we're going through the games, and then the macro is ultimately they get settled in, they figure some things out. It does take a while. Not many guys are going to hit the ground running unless they're, top-end prospects, and even that doesn't always mean that they're going to be amazing right out of the gate. Is it part of, I guess, the natural progression to see these guys struggle and then start to find some consistency in year 2 or, 3 for some guys?
Right. It's a process, and the process is very different for every player, regardless of the position, especially for starting pitching. And I think especially when you have so many that you've kind of thrown into the mix at one time in that rotation. And these are guys who skipped AAA. Remember, these came up after in 2020, and essentially these guys skipped AAA. So they didn't get a chance to experience that next level for the most part. But you throw somebody into the mix at once, you're going to see a lot of pain. You're going to see a lot of that process right in front of your eyes on a nightly basis. And when they all start to kind of hit stride, it's rewarding. And I think it's something that you start to say, hey, this was worth the wait, because now we're seeing what it was all about and what these guys have the ability to be. And kind of once you figure things out and who you are and what you need to be at the highest level, there's no more adjustments. It's just a period of staying healthy and working your routine and going out there and then just making pitches and doing the things that you've proven to yourself, you've proven to others that you have the ability to do that. But just trying to get to that point, it takes some time, and again, it's different for every player.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports. So as of late in these 43 games, 43 games, you mentioned that it's consistency compared to the first 54 games when they were 17 and 37. Do you want to throw a dart to guess how much lower the starter's ERA is by, whatever sort of number, 5.00, 4.3, whatever number lower these most recent 43 games are for a starter's ERA compared to the first 54?
I'd say it's probably a 1.5 lower. That's just a guess, but I'd say it's considerably lower.
You're very close. It's 1.32. So 1.32 ERA lower in these most recent 43 games to the first 54. Monty, that's pretty stark. I mean, 1.3, you're talking about being an average, a number 5 starter versus a number 1 starter on a staff. And I'm not saying these guys are all number 1 starters, but that's the difference of what we're seeing from these starting pitchers. They're also going deeper in the games. It's only by a couple of outs, 4 2/3 versus 5 1/3, where they're, pitching, averaging out these most recent 43 versus the first 54. But those couple of outs do make a difference. It's 2 less outs for the bullpen. You save their arm a little bit. And hopefully the more consistency there is, the longer they'll go into games. But over a run and almost a run and a half per game, I mean, is it as simple as just, hey, they're getting more consistent? Is there something there? Are there adjustments that are being made? Because that's a pretty stark contrast, and the bullpen's been pretty good as well. The bullpen's improved by almost a run per game. So those are guys that have been around and have been doing it for a number of years, and the overall bullpen staff has improved by a run, ERA per game as well in these most recent 43.
Well, I think another thing that's changed a lot is the fact that the offense was really, really struggling early in the year. Think of all the guys that were hitting, 126, or guys that are hitting under 200. Even some of your really productive guys, the Merrifields, the Salvador Perez, the guys you count on. I mean, Santana was in that mix. You had an offense that was really, really sputtering early in the season. We had a pitching staff that they were under pressure a lot every game they went out there. There were no runs scored. I mean, Brad Keller it seemed like he went the first half of the season where they scored a run for the guy. But for a starting pitcher, it's important to go out there and feel confident about your stuff and feel like you have the ability to attack the strike zone. Hey, if you make a mistake and a guy hits a solo home run, that's part of baseball. You just have to move forward. But if you're out there thinking you're pitching defensively and you're not able to really attack the zone that way because you're a little concerned that if you give up a run or two, hey, the game's potentially over, especially early. So the pitching staff was pitching defensively early in the season because the offense wasn't scoring runs for them. Now that the offense has been more productive, they're getting some early runs and giving pitchers a little bit of a cushion to go out there and really kind of beat themselves a little more. And it's easy to tell yourself, hey, I got to go out and pitch like it's a 1-0 game. And that's really easy to tell yourself, but doing it's a different thing. But I think just the offense has really contributed to some degree to the pitching staff's success because they've now supported them with runs. I know the last month or so they're averaging over 4 runs a game, almost 4 1/4 runs a game. So to me, that's the magic number in baseball. It's 4. If you can score 4 runs or you can hold the opponents to less than 4 runs, you got a good chance of winning every night.
Yeah, the offense has been as stark as the pitching staff. That the offense in these most recent 43 games has an OPS 100 points higher than what the first 54 games were. So when your offense overall is OPSing 100 points higher and your pitching staff is 1.3 or essentially right around a run lower ERA, yeah, that's a good explanation, Monty, as to why they go 17 and 37, and then now they're 22 and 21 in that stretch. So that makes a huge difference. And is there Jeff Montgomery's our guest? We talked about this yesterday, Monty, on the air, but is there some sort of an odd sort of level of frustration that goes along with the most recent stretch that it's good to see them play well, and it's good to see them play above 500 for a quarter of the season, essentially, in 43 games, and that would pace out to be like 84 wins, so about 84 and 78 over the course of a season, which if they were 84 and 78, you would take that because, you know, the over-under for this team was like 73, 74. Is there a small little level of frustration that it's like the way they're playing now is obviously the way that the front office thought that this season was going to go when they said that they felt like they were going to compete in 2022. So is there a level of frustration there that 17 and 37 was the start, and now it seems like they're playing the way the fans, the staff, the front office felt like this team could play, but they're already so far out of it, it doesn't really matter?
I think there was probably a lot more frustration early in the season. I think they're probably a little more inclined to say we're happy to be where we are right now. We know that we've got a lot of baseball left. And yes, we're too far out to think of ourselves as contenders, but we know that we're maybe laying some groundwork for not just next season, but like a long period of time moving forward with some of the players that have been given opportunities to come in and be part of the lineup, and some of the younger pitchers establishing themselves. I think they're probably more excited about that.
Yeah.
And think about this. I mean, this is almost exactly opposite of last season. Remember last season, after the first month of baseball, the Royals had the best record in baseball. And then they went on all those skids in the middle part of the year where they kind of took themselves out of it. And then they played pretty decent baseball in the second half. So I think what they're looking to do now is, hey, build on what we've done over this last month or so, take it into, you know, the balance of the season.
Is part of the rebuilding process that, you know, what we have to go off of is the first time Dayton Moore and this front office built the team into that run of 2013, 14, 15, and on into 2016 when you're talking about, you know, seasons where you were above or at 500, 86 wins, 89 wins, 95 wins, a World Series, a couple of World Series appearances there. 2012 was a season when their low water mark, they were 41 and 60 in 2012. They finished that year 31 and 30. They then go into the next season and they're 86 and 76. They're competing towards the end. The next year they make the wild card. The year after that they win the division and win the World Series. Obviously that would be great if you could just simply repeat history. I'm not saying that asking you is there a World Series coming up in a few years for this team, but what I'm wondering is, you mentioned laying the groundwork. Do you see comparisons, because you were around the team at that time as well, do you see comparisons and maybe some similarities from 2012 when that team started playing minimum 500 baseball down the stretch to this team that had the awful start and has been playing 500 baseball for 40 games?
I think the comparison I make is you had a lot of younger players who were drafted. They were developed. They were given chances to come to the big leagues in that 2012 timeframe. And we know it takes a period of time for everybody to figure things out. I just think you've got a pretty good group, substantial group of younger players who you can say that they're going to be part of the future. I think people really like what they've seen from Nick Prado, Bobby Witt Jr., MJ Melendez. I mean, you've got some players who, going back to those earlier days and when the Royals were laying the groundwork for their championship seasons, you could never say Eric Hosmer without saying Mike Moustakas. And then you had the trades where you bring in the Lorenzo Cain. So anyways, you got a larger group of younger guys that are going to kind of come through this thing together. And with the Melendez's, the Pasquantinos, and the Witt Jr., this process together.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, looking at that team, and if you're saying, well, which players were on that team that ultimately were on the World Series or the wild card team, as far as like a pitching state, you had Herrera and Holland in the bullpen, Hochevar as well, Guthrie a part of that team, and then when you look at the position players, Salvi was on that team. He was 22 years old. Hosmer was on that team. He was 22. Moose was 23. Escobar was 25. Kane and Butler were 26, and Alex Gordon was 28. They were all a part of that 2012 team, especially at the end of the season, and then on into 13, 14, and 15. So that group, that nucleus that we're talking about, those 7 position players and a few guys in the bullpen with Herrera, Holland, and Hochevar, especially in 2015, exchange Hochevar and Holland, 14 and 15, obviously. You had a pretty good nucleus there of guys, and I don't know if it's the same thing now, if it's, Witt and Vinny Pasquantino and Prado, and maybe, Nicky Lopez and maybe Massey comes up, but then Bubic and Lynch and Singer, and then some guys in the bullpen if they don't end up trading them. I think there is some sort of a core that if you do look at it, you can say, all right, I can see some similarities in terms of different names, but kind of the same grouping of total number of players that are at least viewed as going to be a part of, or what the front office views as being a part of a team that's going to pop champagne.
Yeah, and I think if you look at those various compartments, whether it be the bullpen or the rotation or your lineup, I think you've got the makings for a solid rotation. Now, I would rather have 4 or 5 guys who you would say these guys are maybe not aces, but they're 2 or 3 in a rotation on a lot of staffs. I'd like to have a whole group of those guys as opposed to maybe one ace and a whole bunch of other guys that are probably penciled in as 4 or 5 starters on most rotations. So I think you have the makings for that. I think there's some work to be done as far as solidifying your bullpen and knowing that you've got your 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning covered. I think we're short right there, but I think you have the makings with regards to your lineup and your position players to have a good part of that pretty well identified as who you got moving forward.
Yeah, and you know what? Between 12 and 13 is when they made the big trade with Shields and Davis, and then Danny Duffy was making his way up to the big leagues. And 2013 he had 5 or 6 starts, and then 2014 is when he just burst onto the scene and had his 2.5 ERA. That was pretty good, and one of the better pitchers on the staff. And so you've got those guys. They went out. Irvin Santana, they got him in free agency between 12 and 13. So they really saw what they might be, and then said, let's make a trade. Let's bring in a James Shields who can be a front line, at least horse, eat some innings, help these guys out along the way. Wade Davis, maybe he can be a starter. If not, we feel like we've got a pretty good bullpen piece with him. Let's bring in Santana. We got some guys up in the minor leagues that we feel like can be up as pitching staff. So you kind of saw what they did in the offseason there, and maybe that's this offseason. Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer. The trade deadline, though, coming up, and that is going to be, a week from yesterday. So we've got 6 days until the trade deadline. You've been around baseball a long time. What's the feeling around a clubhouse when it is such an unknown right now? Benintendi is expected to be traded, before the trade deadline. Whit Merrifield's name's been talked about. Stalmont, Barlow, Dozier, Michael A. Taylor, so many names that have been discussed. What's the clubhouse like the week of the trade deadline?
Well, as a player, you certainly know that your name has been thrown around, and there's a chance that could happen. It's important to make sure that does not interfere with what you're trying to do on a daily basis as far as preparing for a game. Sometimes it can be a distraction because obviously everybody wants to ask you about it, everybody wants to talk about it in the media. But the players at that stage of their careers, for the most part, they're seasoned. They understand that. They know how to handle it and go about their business. And with regards to the trades, I think you'll see at least one trade, but I don't know if you're going to see a whole list of trades coming up here, because I think when you look at trades at this time of year, there's a limited number of teams that are looking to acquire players. And I think if you have a player, I look at a player, especially a player you control, he's a huge asset to your organization, and you got to make sure you get value for that player. And let's use Whit Merrifield, for example. His name's been thrown around quite a bit, but unless a team's willing to give up a substantial package for a Whit Merrifield, why would you trade him? Because he's a valuable asset to your organization, and you go into the offseason, and there's nothing says you can't trade a player like Whit later on down the road when there are other teams. Now you've got 30 teams trying to build their rosters instead of maybe 5 or 6 teams trying to make a playoff run. So I think it's more likely when you see trades are going to happen in the offseason, with the exception of those players who are no longer going to be under control of the club.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer. Real quick, Brady Singer, I wanted to talk specifically about him. I was going to do it in the pitching staff, but then we started talking about the offense and things like that in 2012. But what have you seen from Brady Singer in these 8 starts since he's been called back up? 3.6 ERA. Is it a matter of the changeup, which he's been using a whole lot more than he ever has, and certainly he's more confident in that? Is it as simple as that, or are there other things mixed in? Because he's got amazing stuff. I mean, his stuff is really good. 12 strikeouts, one of the best games we've seen. He goes out on the mound and you can see him in command, and you see that he's incredibly confident whatever he's throwing up there. Can it be just the changeup that he started to get more comfortable with, and now he has 3 pitches?
I think the changeup has something to do with it. I don't think it's the biggest part of it. I think the biggest part of his recent success has been just some adjustments he's in the slider and get guys out. That's a pitch that's just always been natural for him. But the changeup certainly is something that everybody identified. He's going to need that third pitch. When Brady Singer's on with his fastball slider combination, he really doesn't need the slider. His stuff's that good. But on days when maybe the command's not quite as sharp with his fastball, or his slider is maybe a little flat, or he's seeing like all left-handed lineup, that's when that changeup is a real huge pitch for him. And the fact that he's grown with regards to confidence and his ability to use that in big situations, that's made a huge difference for him.
Jeff Montgomery, Valley Sports Royals Hall of Famer, Royals Insider, presented by Sandlot Goods. Jeff, really appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the game this afternoon. We will talk next week.
Sounds great, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
All right, there's Jeff Montgomery, Valley Sports TV, Royals Hall of Famer. He's presented by Sandlot Goods, Kansas City's own Sandlot Goods, only local hat manufacturer. Shop their hats and more online at sandlotgoods.com or at their stores located in all made-in-KC marketplaces. Quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll head up to St. Joe, hear from the Chiefs coming up next.
Follow the show on Twitter at The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Hey, you're in the room all by yourself, dude.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
No, you're all right. That's okay.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from Bob Kendrick coming up in the noon hour, about 12:20, 12:25, 12:30, 12:40. Whenever he is available to join us, we will talk with Bob Kendrick. Looking forward to that conversation. The president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and what an awesome and fantastic weekend in Cooperstown it was. Mick Shaffer joining us at 1 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs in St. Joe, Andy Reid, Juju Smith-Schuster, Trey Smith, and Justin Reed will be talking as well. So Trey Smith, Justin Reed, Juju, and also Andy Reid. Couple of little nuggets that's out there from the Chiefs in training camp. as we started the show, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was reported on the PUP list and then was practicing today. Frank Clark was late to practice, but at first, when everybody was out there and the media taking roll call, which is one of the first things that happens, is everybody just writes down the numbers and then compares that to the roster and says, all right, these 90 players, who's missing here? And Frank Clark was missing, and so it was Frank Clark is not at training camp. Then, of course, he was at training camp. And so those things sort of getting figured out and hashed out. But the news that actually does have some sort of a weight to it with the salary cap.
Yeah, just overall, like, stress level for me, this is a lot different. I know I can anticipate things a little bit better. My knowledge of the game has improved, like, exponentially comparatively to last year. So, just having that expectation is just like, I know what the expectation is. I know sort of what to expect. I know the details and the coaching points. It's just time to apply it, and that's on me to do it.
Obviously, last year, going from college to NFL and then school, what is it that you learned from last year to this year now that you know that you improve on?
Yeah, just overall, just in my mind, just being like tighter in everything I do. In terms of that, I mean, like in my set, just being more detailed with it, being more intentional with my landmarks, with my eyes, hand placement, and just taking Coach Hack's coaching points, to the field every day.
You had a lot of highlights last year where it looked like you chose violence over anything else. Is that the type of mentality that you hope to install with the rest of your teammates? Like when you go out and you put somebody on their back, you put them on their back.
Yeah, I think a lot of my teammates already had that in them, especially like Creed Humphrey, Joe, Orlando, Andrew, Mike Rimmers last year, Kyle Long for sure. Those guys, it's something that we take pride in, being a tough offensive line, being a physical force out there, and allowing, the skill players and yeah, I just think it's a testament to the coaching here, to the system Coach Reed has, as well as, once again, the coaching job Andy had, Coach Mate did last year, both in the field, and they showed.
Sure, you mentioned Orlando. He's not here right now. He's got the pullback going on. I know it's always next man up, whether someone gets hurt or whatever happens, but have you talked to him? Do you feel like there's any progress being made? Do you have an idea what his plan's going to be?
Yeah, Orlando's a close friend. I talked to him, but, at the end of the day, it's going to be with Brett Beach and Orlando Brown. They're going to make the right decision, and they're going to be ready to go when the time's ready.
You confident that he'll be here playing for this team this year?
I can't make those decisions. I'm just a player. I just come up and do my job every day. But
Juju said he couldn't believe how hot it was. Have you told him this isn't hot yet? It's not hot?
Yeah, I'm telling myself that, man. Getting used to that St. Joe's heat, man. It's definitely different. It's a different beast.
Is there a certain aspect of Trey being a rookie and all the things that lead up to like that first game and the excitement of playing your first NFL game? Is it slightly different this year where you can sort of pinpoint to that time and say, ooh, I want to do this slightly differently, slightly more, slightly less, to get ready for obviously Arizona?
Yeah, I think the mentality just shifts a little bit. Just speaking again, just because we did it last year, just sort of the expectation obviously is increased, but also, I know what to expect and anticipate going into it as well. So the mentality definitely has shifted.
Everybody's got film on what kind of player you are. There's going to be some adjustments. Did you see any adjustments?
How to counter that? Whose name do you think came up the most as one of the toughest blocks?
This year they didn't really go into much detail about that. There was a lot of talk about Bunchy Gathers last year, but
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, there's Trey Smith, right guard for the Chiefs. You're listening to Sports Radio 810, WHB, Kansas City, and someone that a year ago people were saying, it looks pretty good. I mean, this Trey Smith guy, I feel like he's going to be a real surprise this year, maybe a real sleeper and a steal in the draft. A year later, that has absolutely been the case. One of the better guards in the NFL. Here is Justin Reed up next.
Trent McDuffie and even Josh got the grizzled veteran in the back there.
Yeah.
What are your thought process on those, especially those two rookies that are playing cornerback?
Yeah. LJ is essentially the vet in the room at the corner position, and he's done a great job bringing Trent and Joshua and all the rest of the rookie corners and young guys coming into the system, bringing them along and making sure they're getting adjusted to the system, because the playbook that we have here is heavy. You know what I mean? And I played in 4 different defensive systems, and this is definitely one of the deepest playbooks defensively that we have. But the young guys have been doing a great job, taking it in stride, listening to the older guys, being learners and not being combative, being open to coaching, both from coaches and from older veterans. So they've been coming along well. We've been putting a lot on their plate, and they're up to the challenge for it.
A lot of the young guys in the past have talked about, and I don't want to bring him up, but Tyler Matthew, how he was able to put guys in their position.
Yeah.
Back in. How comfortable are you with doing that, being that you're learning as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's my strong point. I feel like that's the reason why they brought me in is being a field general on the back end, being able to see the whole picture, not only just put guys in positions, but like sometimes you just go out there and play football, mistakes happen, but having the awareness to be able to see when something's a little bit off and be the eraser on the back end to make sure that either we get them on the ground or just to fix mistakes where most people don't even notice that there was a mistake on the field.
And a little bit ago, Juan Thornhill talked about he's going to have an all-pro season.
Yeah.
What are you saying from him?
Yeah. I mean, Juan is a grinder. He comes out here, he set the tempo and the work ethic. I believe him. Everyone got their dog in him, and this is his year to come out and show out. It's a contract year for him, so I know he's looking at every opportunity and attacking it.
Even there aren't so many young players like Juan, to an extent, like yourself, even though you are a veteran in this league, how much do you relish this blank palette to sort of make this defense what you and Juan and maybe Chris want it to be, starting fresh in a sense?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How much do you relish the opportunity to have this blank palette with all these young guys to sort of create your own defensive identity after Houston, now here in Kansas City?
Yeah. There's something to be said about like a fresh start. And this is a new look defense, you could say. We have a lot of new faces coming in, being and starting, and a lot of guys who are gritty and been hungry for the opportunity to prove their worth and show who they are as players. So we want to be an attitude defense. We want to come out and set the tempo. We want to be physical. We want to be dominant. When it comes down to the end of the game, when we have a lead, we want to be the ones that finish it and not have to rely on the offense to go out and do anything. So that's the attitude that we're building. That's the attitude that we're going to continue with the whole season.
You had a pick today. How did that feel for you? What did you see on that play?
I mean, I'm just playing the defense. Coach Spags tells us what to do. We go out and execute it. When you do that, you buy into the program. You be a good teammate. You be a good student of the game. Good things usually happen. So I try and keep myself humble. And, plays like that happen. And when you have your opportunity, you just got to catch it.
Justin, you made that pick, and you made some other plays today, too. Understanding that it's just the first day and it's just camp. Is it meaningful at all to you to get off to a strong start here?
Yeah. You always want to start strong. I mean, you can even look at how we've started in a couple years past, and this is a totally new defense. But we want to be out and from game one come out and start strong. We don't want to have to take a couple games to get into it. We want to come out from day one and be a dominant defense. So I think that today was a great day for us. But you're only as good as the next day. So tomorrow we're going to have to come out and do it again.
Justin, you came out and said how you're glowing in your praise about the offense a couple weeks back. And now it's your opportunity to try to stop them.
Yeah.
How you still think that offense is going to be just explosive and now you see it more and more in practice?
Yeah, I mean, we
try to stop them.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, we got explosive players. We got 2 Hall of Famers sitting on the offensive side of the ball, and anytime you have a combination like that, I mean, there's good things are always going to happen. Still got all the faith in the world on offense. At the same time, I got more faith, especially being a defensive player, in our defense. You know what I mean? So we're not going to make it easy for them. We're here to compete every day. Me and Trav are going to go against each other. Pat and Juan, everybody, every day there's going to be matchups, and guys are going to get better from it. I mean, we get after it today. Guys weren't lying to me when they said that we're going to run a lot of plays here, so I've seen that firsthand, and I know we're only going to run more of them. So it's going to be good work this training period, and I think that at the end of it, we're going to come out and be a very dominant team from
How does this camp, relate to previous games that you've been in? It just pumps up a little bit more.
We run. That's the simplest way to put it. We run a lot, and I don't think anybody's going to be hurting to say that they didn't get enough reps in practice.
Justin,
Yeah.
talk about the deep play, though. I mean, are you sort of eager to find out if you run
Well, the more we can handle right now and prove that we have an understanding of the playbook and we're able to execute without the mental errors and mistakes, the more we're going to be able to take into each week during the game week so that the Coach Spags doesn't have to cut it down so that we're not making mistakes. So we're able to carry more plays into the game week. That's able to switch more things up on the opposing offense that we're playing. It's going to make it more difficult for them. So I think that it's huge to be able to come out, run the whole playbook, be able to execute, limit the mistakes, and going down the road, that'll turn us into not only just a physical defense, but a very smart defense that's able to handle the information that's presented to us and take it into game weeks.
Without asking you for any specifics, like, can you give us an idea of like the percentage of stuff you cover in any given day, like just even on day one?
Well, this is day one. I mean, we covered a little bit more than we did day one of OTAs. We probably have maybe 15% of the playbook in. Yeah, there's a lot of plays that's still going in. We're going to have another big install, throughout the rest of this week, and eventually we'll get to the full package, and then from there we'll cut it down a little bit.
First time being in front of the bank.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, man, this is more people than I've had at some of the fan days we've had in Houston. Like this is day one, so I can't wait to see what the big fan day looks like. It's going to be like a spring game.
Is Heat like the Houston Heat?
Yeah, it's comparable. Houston just doesn't let you breathe on it. Every once in a while we might get a cool day like yesterday, but yeah, Houston is just every day.
You mentioned we were talking about some of those young players, Trent and Joshua out there. It's day one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been around them a little bit. When you see someone, what are you looking for in a rookie? Is it not being scared on the field or in the meeting rooms?
Yeah.
What do you see from those?
The best qualities that I've seen in rookies throughout my years is one, having a high motor, two, a yearning to learn, like just coachability, and three, just not being afraid to make a mistake. I mean, you're going into the highest level of competition in the world, and things are moving at a faster speed than most of these guys have ever seen before. There's going to be mistakes. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to make a mistake. You know what I mean? I've always have a saying that if you're going to make a mistake, make it full speed, and then just don't make the same mistake twice. You know what I mean? And if you do that full speed, you won't make it, because you'll know full speed, okay, I did that the last time, I'm not supposed to do that this time.
You see what you like? Do you like that, what you see from those guys?
Yeah, I do. And I think that the next level of seeing that, though, will be when the pads get put on and we're able to add in a little bit of contact. But where we are right now, I think it's a great spot.
With Josh Williams, pretty big jump from D2 to what he's doing now.
Yeah.
What do you see from him that tells you that maybe this isn't too big for him?
Very technical with his footwork. He's a long guy. You can't coach length like that. So he's able to get his hands on big receivers, make guys run around him. And he plays the system, you know what I mean? And again, like I said earlier, as long as you play the system, you buy into the program, you don't go out and do your own thing, good things will always happen. The play is going to come to you. All you got to do is catch the ball. Yeah.
I was going to say, on your tape, it looks like you got finished at the ball.
Yeah. I write myself notes during practice, so communicate, backpedal, finish at the ball. Just reminders of myself to hold the standard.
Is it something different every day, or the same message?
Whatever the focus is. If there's something the previous practice, again, like not making the same mistake twice, I'll write it down to make sure that I don't do it again.
Justin,
Yeah.
As a veteran, and with the mix of the new rookies and stuff that's going to be on the defense side of football and a lot of new faces, where's the balance at for you all going into week one of the NFL season as it relates to what you're able to do in practice versus what you're going to be seeing in live game between the big preseason, like the number of reps that you all are hoping to give out there?
Yeah.
So not giving too much away, but also it's one thing to go against the offense that
Yeah.
you see, but then versus the opposing team that you
Yeah. I'm be honest with you. This is my first time playing here, so I don't even know what the plan is for the preseason games. I just focus on the task at hand, the day at hand. I know today we had the plays that we installed, and I focus on those plays. And tomorrow, whatever the coaches call, we're going to go out and execute it. I'm not sure what that will be, and it's also really not my job to even care what it is. Whatever the coach says, that's what we're going to go out and play.
Okay, thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate you guys.
See, and now people realize why I lobbied for Justin Reed to replace Corey.
He would have been better at
I
this.
spent so long talking to Chad and saying, look, do we have the money to be able to have him quit football to come on and be a part of the show? on a daily basis from 10 to 2. The Chiefs can find another safety. I had my wish list. He said, give me your wish list. There it was, Justin Reid. In all seriousness, I could listen to him talk about football all day.
And I would be much worse at his job than he would be at this job. So that trade-off would have been good for the show, bad for the Chiefs.
Ditto. I think there were a lot of – there are probably when it comes to like talking or in the media maybe in general, maybe not writing because they're very smart. But if it's on TV, which we know Mick Shaffer, he's a face. You know, that's really it. And Justin Reid, good looking as well. But a radio, I mean, we're just gas bags here talking about nonsense. He's definitely better at this and TV than the TV and us would be at his job. So
by like a hilarious margin.
Although I kind of feel like I could play the role of the guy wearing a jersey that Tyrann Mathieu turns around and raises his arms at as to why aren't you in that spot.
Yeah,
I could
true.
do that. I feel very confident about my ability. I'll take the game check that week. I feel confident about that. But no, Justin Reid is so good. They did, the last couple of years, I guess it was probably late 2019 is when it turned into Thursdays, coordinators, and Tyrann Mathieu.
Yep.
And they rotated a little bit more in 20 and last year as well. But 2019, they rotated it at the beginning, and it became, no, we want to hear from Tyrann Mathieu. No, we want to hear from
Tyrann.
It was awesome. Yep. And I would not be surprised if it turns out to be coordinators and Justin Reid this year, because you've got the quarterback on Wednesday with the head coach, and on Thursday they typically will have a couple of defensive guys along with the coordinators, and it just so happened to be that Tyrann Mathieu, and then he was that good. I've enjoyed every time Justin Reid has been at the podium and talked, and when he's been on NFL Network and Good Morning Football and Get Up and things like that. When he's done the car wash, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there on TV, enjoyed that as well. So I'm hoping he's going to be good on the field. Because if he's not, don't really care about hearing from him if he's not good. Okay, I don't want to hear about how he missed this tackle and he wasn't there and guys were lined up in the wrong spot and why Brian Cook is now taking his job, and I don't want to hear him talk about that. These things, getting the young guys in the right place, getting them in position, what Josh Williams is bringing, what he can do on the field in a game, the playbook of only being right now 15% of the playbook of Spag's playbook and what they're kind of learning. I can hear him talk about that.
I've been trying to make sure I don't overstate this literally since they signed Justin Reid.
Okay.
And I say this now fully knowing that this is with a rookie starting at corner, a rookie being probably your third safety at some point. I think the secondary is going to be better at virtually every level this year. And I think that at one point a few months ago, that might have started a riot. I think right now most people probably agree with that sentiment. And that's crazy. I do not think there will be a drop-off, even in year one, with Tyrann Mathieu to Justin Reid. And the Chiefs really made that bet for the 3 years of the deal. I think day one, I think that they're at least as good at that position as they were at this point last year.
I think if you're talking about the entire secondary, and then we'll hear from Juju Smith-Schuster heading up to the podium, I think when you're looking at the secondary, to me it kind of comes down to Trent McDuffie and Charvarius Ward. If McDuffie is as good or better than Ward, you can make a case that Justin Reid this year is going to be better than what Mathieu was last year, and Brian Cook over Dan Sorensen is an upgrade, and you've got Snead and Fenton that are out there doing the same thing they did a year ago. Snead, Fenton, Thornhill, the same. It's McDuffie for Ward, Cook for Sorensen, and Justin Reid for Tyrann Mathieu. Yeah, I don't think it's blasphemous to say that this secondary is going to be better than what it was a year ago, and I think the back seven, if you've got healthy Willie Gay and Nick Bolton as opposed to Hitchens and Neiman and Chenal instead of Neiman, although Neiman was the coverage linebacker and Chenal isn't really a guy that's going to cover anybody. Regardless, you get the point. Wide receiver, vastly different in the wide receiver room. Here's Juju Smith-Schuster.
It feels good. It's been a while since I've been, obviously at camp with COVID and everything. But yeah, first time being out here, staying in dorms, kind of reminding me of the old days and just the experience. And like you said, having the fans out here, it's a huge fan base, and I'm not surprised how much they come out here with support. Yeah, this offseason, we just been working out every single day. Pat stays in Dallas. Pat calls, hey, we're we're throwing these days. If you're out here, come out, make it out. And, you know, a lot of guys did that this offseason, you know, and just building that trust. And I think over the time, and you can just see it out here, you know, Pat's making throws and, you know, I'm making those catches. And like you said, just building that chemistry, you know, going into the season.
You said earlier this offseason maybe you weren't able to run all the routes you wanted to a season ago. Can you just talk about what you meant by that and kind of the opportunity you see this year?
Yeah, I mean, this offense, man, oh my gosh, the amount of routes I ran, I think I ran more routes here than my previous offense. And being all over the field. And like I said, being able to play inside, outside, you know, and that's just for everybody. You know, you see MBS playing inside, outside. You've seen Nico playing inside, outside. Scott, you have so many guys playing different positions, which is so nice, you know, because we can move guys around. And like I said, you know, today was just like the first taste of, you know, what I got to show.
Why is that good for you?
Just go. I mean, just like I said, versatile. Being able to spread the ball around, being able to move guys all around the field, and not being able to stay in one spot and get double team, cover team, or double team and being covered on one side, then moving to the other side or inside.
You've kind of seen a lot of success inside. How much do you want to show maybe that I can also do this legitimate outside receiver?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to show just because of the offense I'm in right now. Being able to be outside, like I said, like that's just all showing. You know, I didn't have to come in here, you know, ask for anything. You know, the playbook is meant for everyone to know everybody's position and just play.
Juju, a lot of guys have talked about always being ready for the ball. Like Patrick is a guy that likes to scramble. Guys are talking about being extended plays and being ready. How much have you guys worked on that aspect of it in y'all?
Man, we basically have a period just for that.
Really?
You know, scramble drill, you know, versus, you know, whether you run across the field. And I would say, you know, one thing about with Pat that I've caught on to notice is that, you know, he can run the other way, he can run the opposite way, and he's going to throw it the opposite way for you to go get the ball. He kind of did that today. So, like you said, man, like just to know, you know, where Pat's at, where the balls can be at, and, you know, always be ready, always be open.
In your career, have you had another QB that's been that way like that?
I mean, honestly, I would say that Ben's done that too. I've seen Ben, you know, pull up to the right and, you know, launch the ball to the opposite side of the field in his previous time. So, yeah.
Wide receivers coach Joe Blakemeyer said during the offseason that with the transition of the wide receiver position, each one of y'all have the opportunity to write your own story. What kind of story do you want to write for yourself during training camp?
To be honest, man, the story I'm trying to write, man, is, you know, I would say I was hurt last year. You know, didn't play a lot of ball, and then coming to this team, I'm gonna just let, you know, my play write the story. You know, me making plays on the field, doing what I'm told, and, you know, I came here to win, and this is a team that wins, so it shall prove.
What excites you most about Sky's potential, seeing what he can do as a rookie, given what you did as a rookie?
Man, honestly, I'll tell you one thing about that kid that I love is his happiness, man. Like I've seen a lot of guys come into the league and, you know, so driven, so focused, and, you know, they forget about to enjoy the moment. And Sky, man, like I said, sky's the limit for him. You know, he has a guy, you know, speed, hands, all the way around, smart kid. And, you know, that's what I love about him. But like I said, with him, he's a great player. It's going to show. He's going to help us out a lot. Inside, outside, potentially I can see him playing running back, doing stuff like that, just because he got it in him. And another thing is, too, like I said, he's always happy, man. He's having fun. He's in the moment. He's enjoying himself.
Juju, with it being day one, your first chance to play in front of these fans, how did it feel to go out there and have a really strong day, your first day in front of them?
It felt good, you know. I feel like, you know, like I never left, you know, without, like I said, being out for a while and coming out here and playing, you know, with the guys. And it was hot today. I'm going to tell y'all that, man. It's hot. The heat, the hot, all that. So, you know, they always told me, man, be ready. Camp is no joke. They was right. And to see the fans out here in the heat, the support, that's so much love. And like I said, I appreciate it.
Just a quick off-the-field question for you. What made you leave that baseline team diversion, and what do you guys have in store for this year?
Oh, man. So, yeah, I was part of, you know, phase 10. You know, appreciate them, you know, for putting me on. And I kind of just wanted to start my own way between, like, the gaming road. I pretty much, you know, built that bridge between, you know, gamers and athletes. You know, I treat, you know, professional gamers like professional athletes. You know, like a lot of us will watch pay-per-view to watch Floyd Mayweather fight, but a lot of us, you know, little kids will pay a lot of money to watch, you know, guys like Ninja, Tfue, and these big-time streamers, play a game because they're the best at it, right? LeBron's the best at what he does. Steph Curry's the best at what he does. And these gamers are the best at what they do. So that's where I'm leaning toward the Team Diverge. And we got some big things cooking. I can't say a whole lot, man, but stay tuned. If you're a young gamer out there and y'all watching, man, Team Diverge, TD on top.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, sir. Hey, I like that. Hey, you got a brownie for that.
All right, there's Juju Smith-Schuster speaking directly to Kyler Murray, apparently, about those gamers that are out there and loving all that. Juju talking about the heat. It's hot. It's hot, liking the fans that are there. By the way, Justin Reed saying that there were more fans there today than there were at Houston Fan Days. So take that, Texans. And it felt like a spring game for Justin Reed there with the fans today. And Juju, one of the things that it's going to be interesting to see what the wide receiver room looks like. And we'll, hear from Andy Reid here shortly, what the wide receiver room looks like, because he talked about that. He's running more routes with the Chiefs now than he did in his entire previous offense. Inside, outside, MVS, McCole Hardman, those guys are working inside and outside. They're versatile. And he mentioned one of the things that he appreciated was, playing on the outside a little bit more. And just going through and looking at his years in Pittsburgh, these are the percentage of snaps he's played at slot from 2017 to 2021. So the 5 years he was in Pittsburgh, these are the percentage of snaps overall that he lined up in the slot.
So he played 100% of these snaps. These are just specifically his snaps at slot.
That's exactly right.
Cool.
2017 rookie year, 52% in the slot. Okay. Almost 50-50. Almost. That 52% is almost 50-50.
Sure is.
Absolutely.
You're good at math.
2018, 58%. 2019, 64%. 2020, 78%. 2021, 87%. So him saying that one of the things that's exciting him is exciting to him, and what is exciting him about the offense is that he's playing on the outside a lot more, which is really what the first couple of years were when he started off with 269 receptions for 2,333 yards and 14 touchdowns when he was splitting inside and outside.
Yeah. That's interesting. It also, it makes sense because Sky Moore's going to play in the slot a good amount. We'll see. But the Chiefs like a little versatility there. Tyreek Hill sometimes his most damage
was
in the
almost
slot.
50-50.
Tyreek
was lined up a lot outside.
And still, I would argue that the Chiefs already had the best slot receiver in football on this roster when Juju signed here. I don't mean Tyreek Hill. I mean Travis Kelce. It's like the Chiefs have so many options.
That's right.
In so many places that helps you hunt bad matchups.
Yep.
And for all of the nonsense we've made fun of around Patrick Mahomes and what he is and isn't good at over the last couple of days, if anywhere in football you find yourself a matchup, you create a time where Travis Kelce is lined up in the slot against a linebacker, or anyone in this team is lined up against a linebacker, money to be made there in this offense, and Juju can kick outside and get a little more of that outside action too, and the Chiefs need him to.
Well, I'm on board as saying Juju is going to be the number one receiver this year when it comes to targets and receptions and assuming health, all of that stuff.
Heard that on ESPN radio from an expert a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Bad connection, bad phone quality.
Brosh Gisco.
I just know there was an E at the end of his name.
Always an E at the end of his name. Here's Andy Reid.
You guys got it easy right here. Nice and cool, huh? All right. As far as injuries goes, Fenton, Lucas, Yang, and Prince all were put on PUP. Clyde was put on PUP because he finished his testing, and then he practiced today, so we just took him off at practice. Frank Clark was ill, came back down to practice. He had a test he had to do, came back, knocked that out. Other than that, it was good to get everybody back out there. Looks like we're in good shape for, got a good little foundation going there, and we'll keep building on that. I like the competition between the offense and the defense. Offense won a few, defense won a few, but they were competing. And like I said, it's the first day, so we'll keep rolling. But I was happy with the attitude and the work that they put in.
Coach, you put Cortez Broughton on the pup list as well. What is his issue?
I'll get you that.
maybe Robert Johnson, what is he showing you to sort of step into that spot, at least for today?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Robert Johnson?
Yeah. So I thought he was productive in the offseason, and so coming in, we thought he could help out there. So I mean, we'll just see how it rolls.
Is he your guy there for the time being, or are you going to rotate some other guys?
We're going to keep rotating them in. So until nothing's solidified there.
You talked about Tooney. Are we going to see him at left tackle anytime soon?
Probably not right now.
Coach, last year you had a big thing with getting a lot of reps in with your new offensive line that you have put together. What are the expectations going into preseason with the games along with the first game? What are you hoping to see or questions you have answered with your new offensive skill players?
The skill players of the line.
The skill players.
Yeah. So the offensive line, I like what we've got, and I thought the guys did a nice job of growing together last year, and they'll just keep adding to that. As far as the skill guys go, the more reps they get, the better. So we'll just keep working. It looked like they hadn't fallen off from the OTAs, but things are always faster here. So, and then they'll be faster in the preseason games, and once you get in the season, it'll be faster. But I liked what I saw. We're going to keep rolling people in, both sides of the ball, rolling people in, making sure we get the right group to be in position to be your starter.
When you say that, though, obviously you try to limit the reps of your skill players going into the season. I mean, how much do you feel like you'll need to see with real action? Obviously, OTA, shorts, jerseys, t-shirts. What's the?
We'll try to keep it fast out here, so we get plenty of reps. I think when it's all said and done between, the preseason games and the practice out here, we'll have plenty of reps. Yeah.
Specifically, Mahomes to Juju today were the line. I know the line is just taking defense to get you, but just how do you see that connection kind of form over the course of OTA now in training?
Yeah, there's a trust there. So this isn't Juju's first rodeo, right? As they'd say. So I like what we like what we saw before. He was banged up just a little bit. He had to pull in the OTAs, but he's back now. He's healthy, and it was good work today. We'll just keep building on it. First day.
And you got a ton of guys out here, but what does Orlando miss by not being out?
Yeah, well, it's primarily the new stuff. That's what it is. He knows kind of the old stuff, and then the reps, the speed of the game, and that. So that's all. Listen, it's all part of it. This is all part of the business.
Sorry, and I know part of this is because Sean is obviously not practicing right now, but what has impressed you most about Joshua playing in the short game most
Yeah, I like what I see. I want to keep building on it. The more at that position, the better. And so if we can get quality play out of the guys, that's what you're looking at. I just want to see his first day. I want to see more.
I will preface every question with I know it's early.
I know. It's hard. I wish I had all the answers to that.
I know the battles are not going on, but with everything that you want to see from this young core of defensive players, is there something that you sort of anticipated or something that you maybe told them, hey, first week, this is kind of what I want to see, even though, yes, and stuff?
Yeah, so, I told him don't count the numbers in the lines. Brett's done a nice job of bringing a lot of people in here that are good players. So don't get caught up in that. Just go play, and then we'll make the decision. Make it as hard as you can on us. And so you have an opportunity to make a play or have a rep, take advantage of that. And that's kind of where we're at today. We got guys that, there might be some guys that are working with 2s and 3s that end up playing for us and making the team.
This Mahomes in Texas, like pre-OTA thing is new for you guys this year. As you look at the team today, how much of a legitimate difference maybe do you see stemming, do you think, in that initial?
Yeah, I think what was unique from the fact that we had new guys, just to get to know each other. Spend as much time as you can. And they went and rented homes down there, and they ate dinner, ate lunch, they practiced, they did all that. So I thought that was important. Now, whether you do that this next year, I can't tell you that. But for this year, I thought that was important.
Is it that camaraderie energy is something that you like about St. Joe? Is that kind of the reason why looking back you allowed that to be?
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's why I do like going away to camp. I think there's some benefit to that.
You talk about being away at camp, you hear all the fans here. What added value does that have for practice?
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I talked to the guys about that. I said, now listen, this isn't going to be like OTAs where you just have the media out there. This is going to be, our fans, and they're crazy. So they love to support you and enjoy that part. But it's good for the guys to be under, have a little of that. It gets the juices going.
It is first day, and it's rookies. This is their first time in front of fans, but it's all the ones. Is one of the things you look for specifically with guys like Williams and McDuffie at cornerback, just the willingness to get out there and compete? And can you judge from one day that you like that part of it?
Yeah, no, listen, I thought the young secondary players, I thought they did a nice job today. I thought they got in there, they competed. I like that. And then the catches that were made were contested. You had bodies close to bodies, and I didn't see the officials throwing a ton of flags, which was good. I mean, they're working their fundamentals too out here. So they've got the freedom to throw the flag. Problem. Once we got on the team part of it, I thought it was pretty clean play.
Coach, Jody Fortson, guy who's been around a little bit. He was injured last year, now he's back. Seems like he's in full swing. What do you think?
Yeah, good to have him back. Yeah. So he's somebody that the quarterback trusts. He plays hard, aggressive every play. I'm happy for him because he's worked so hard to put himself in the position that he put himself in last year, and now he's got another go at it. So I thought he was just coming on last year, and I would expect him to just pick it up and let's go from there.
Year number 30, I believe it's 30 or 31 as a coach in the NFL. You slimmed down some, it looks like over the summer. What keeps you motivated? What new challenges do you see? Obviously, with the new rookies and the new flex of players, what type of challenges does it do for you each year?
Yeah, no, listen, I enjoy what I'm doing. I respect the fact that I'm one out of 32 guys in the whole world that has an opportunity to do this, and I know I'm not getting any younger, and so I've got more days or less days ahead of me than I have behind me. So I'm gonna take advantage of every one of those days, and with these guys out here, I've got good kids out here that are good players and good coaches and all that. So the only thing I wish could happen was I wish we didn't have to do this.
One last thing, and I'm sorry to have to bring it up, but obviously, the big news around the NFL is what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. Has there been any discussion with Frank or the league about his situation as it relates to what he may face this upcoming season?
No, I haven't had any discussion.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Let's go.
Yep.
All right, there's Andy Reid, head coach of the Chiefs at training camp. And look, it's the natural sound and it's the ambiance of training camp. I'll be honest, I missed it. I know it may make it difficult to hear the questions at times, but the gator going by, not an actual alligator, but the gator.
The screaming could have been an actual alligator. We don't know that.
And the screaming of the children. You get an idea as to which players might be walking by near the children by how loud the screams get. The loudest roar is going to be for Patrick Mahomes, and then throw in some guys after that, some Travis Kelce, some Chris Jones, things like that. Then the cheers will be like, "Hey, you! Hey, guy!" Looking at the roster, but I missed it. It means that football is here because the on-the-field interviews during minicamp or OTAs, if those were taking place, it was just birds in the background. Right. That's it. But now camp is going on, and the fans were clearly there, and it's rolling now. It's rolling. We'll talk about what we heard from Trey Smith, Justin Reed, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Andy Reid coming up on the other side of the break. We continue with more Zone right after this. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Charvarius Ward, you anticipate maybe he can at least do some things in practice this week?
Yeah, we'll see what Sharkavius, yes. Sharkavius.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards. I like conversations we have in the break sometimes.
For years, we've been teasing the video stream viewers that maybe we would be able to stream some of those.
Well, you can
It
stream.
would take some of the fun out of it, though.
You would see the video of us
you could watch.
talking and things
you
like
should.
that.
Yeah, I think that might be a fun game to play. Guess what Josh and Jason are talking about during the break, just by our flailing or whatever.
Here's a little tip. You know it's serious when we both lean away from the microphone, just in case Beards might have it on. So if you ever see us move the microphone like all the way away, like way over there, it's like, all right, well, they're talking about something they definitely want to make double sure is not going out over the air.
Or it's explicitly about how little we trust Beards, because then if he has our mics queued up, I'm going to have my mic over here, and I'm like, this Beards fella, I don't know about this Beards fella.
Can't stand Beards. I even have to press while he has I think he's got the microphone off, I'm even pressing the cough button, it turns my phone off, being able to here and
I do this sometimes also.
On.
Yeah, I do this too.
So then I'm talking to you with the cough button on. So I don't want to hear Beards hearing this conversation we're having about him. That's not right to him. You should always talk behind somebody's back. You don't want to hurt their feelings by telling them to their face.
Exactly.
That's a secret to life. That's what I've always said, is always talk behind someone's back, never actually approach them and get to the heart of the issue.
I got to get used to this chair also, so I'm going to just real quick.
Yeah. See,
Did that work?
It did.
Okay, all right. This cup button works.
See, there you go. You're pressing. Now, I
can believe talk Beards in privacy now.
If you're sitting over here, there's a confusion sometimes with which talk button, because Mick will sit here on mic 3, but sometimes he'll press the cough button for mic 4, and he'll press the cough button and go. I was right into the mic, Mick. I think you pressed the wrong button there, buddy. So
he's only done this for several years, multiple hours a week. He'll figure it out eventually.
But he looks pretty while he's doing it.
And now people can watch Mick whenever he's in studio here.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Which
this
will be at 1 o'clock
stock's going through the roof at 1 o'clock.
That'll be at 1 o'clock. Bob Kendrick, we'll talk with him around 12:30. Get his thoughts on and hear some stories and memories and emotions and feelings of what this past weekend was in Cooperstown with Buck O'Neil going into the Hall of Fame. We'll talk with Bob Kendrick around 12:30 or so. Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We have a couple of pairs of tickets to give away for the WHB 100-year celebration that is coming up August 11th. That is Thursday night at the Midland Theater. Going to continue giving away tickets throughout the days, and it is going to be a fun night celebrating sports and entertainment and broadcasting. Stephen St. John and Dustin Colquitt will be the hosts for the evening. They'll be emceeing the event, and we're also raising money to give to 4 incredible charities: Big Brothers Big Sisters, Victory Project, ALS Association of Kansas City, Sharewaves. All of these different charities are going to receive the money that we are raising for as being a part of this event, along with corporate sponsorship packages and also other different packages, which include tickets and different things like that. You can call 913-344-1529 if you want to be involved in that and be able to give back and help us raise some money. There'll be a live auction at the end of the night by the Nigro Brothers. They'll be there. We'll be awarding the first ever Jerry Green Broadcasting Scholarships. Going to be recognizing some of our honorary ESPY award winners throughout the evening as well. So all of that going on August 11th. And there's going to be a lot of joy in the air because 2 days after that will be Chiefs and Bears, because Chiefs players have that Friday off because I believe they'll be traveling. So they'll be practicing early Thursday and then traveling on Friday to Chicago to face off against the Bears. So a joyous night sort of celebrating the penultimate last night without Chiefs games being talked about. That's really the celebration. It's a 100-year celebration to end the however many days it's been without watching a Chiefs football game.
We're celebrating 100 years of WHB, the end of the football drought.
That's right.
The kicking off of the 2022 NFL season.
100%.
And we're going to be there. It's like the best party ever made, I think, already. It hasn't even happened yet. This is going to be good. Should I try to hire some like a personal photographer, maybe just leak to the paparazzi, that we're going to be out there, that the Zone, in this new form is going to make a public appearance together. I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of ways we could this could be great for our Q rating.
So I know we're talking football.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to talk about the press conferences.
Yes.
I do want to open up the phone lines and give away a pair of tickets here, 913-3810810. Caller number 8, get a pair of tickets, 913-3810810. While also telling you this, going on in Syracuse right now, the big lead up for the Storm Chasers v. You know what? Let's do caller number 11. Here's a reason for caller number 11.
Ooh.
Okay. Storm Chasers v. Syracuse, whatever their name is. It's Salvi in a rehab start, Jacob DeGrom in a rehab start. So a big day. Top of the second, 2 on, 2 out. Against DeGrom, Drew Waters, Oppo, 3-run shot against DeGrom. Drew Waters, who wears number 11 for Omaha. And we will take caller number 11 to win a pair of tickets to the 100-year celebration. Thank you, Royals Farm Report, for tweeting that out. DeGrom can't get Drew Waters out.
Do you want to take one quick guess as to what the name of the Syracuse minor league baseball team is? Just get one guess. Don't think about it too hard. Who are they the minor league team of?
They are of the Mets with Jacob DeGrom playing.
Okay.
So the
Syracuse
Mets.
You're so smart.
The Syracuse 44s?
Nope, just Syracuse
They're not
Mets.
the 44s?
Just the Mets.
Okay.
Come on. Wake up, Syracuse.
Syracuse Mets.
Get a real team name.
Used to be Omaha Royals.
I know, but
now it's the Chasers.
Branding is better.
Now we're chasing them.
Be the Syracuse DeGroms.
And you know what Drew Waters did? He chased that puss right over the left center field wall for a 3-run shot off Jacob DeGrom. Caller number 11. Pair of tickets to the 100-year celebration. We continue. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Chiefs Kingdom, are you ready to get back to Arrowhead? Tickets for Less can help. Tickets for every Chiefs game are officially on sale at ticketsforless.com. If you're looking for tickets to this season's must-see Chiefs games, then check out the great selection and prices at ticketsforless.com. With one of the toughest schedules in the league, including some incredible home matchups, Arrowhead Stadium is the place to be this season. Be there to see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in 2022. Memories for life. Start at ticketsforless.com.
Steven St. John here for Amini's. You want it, Amini's has it, with 6-year no-interest financing. Check out the largest in-stock selection of indoor and outdoor home entertainment pieces in the Kansas City area. Get entire outdoor furniture sets for $99 a month, pool tables starting at $39 a month, or Golden Tee Golf for only $89 per month. Pick your payment with no interest financing. There's only one place I recommend. The same people I shop for my home. Amini's, 105th and Metcalf in Overland Park, or Aminis.com.
Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. When the games are on, remember 23rd Street Brewery is the place to catch them all. You can always count on our huge portions and our handcrafted beers, but what you might not know are our fabulous cocktails. Our bartenders take a lot of pride in creating adult beverages that you will love. You'll be surprised how incredible they are. And of course, big screen TVs everywhere you look, so you won't miss a play. So join us at 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence, 23rd and Castle.
Give a gift to the I Love Children's Mercy Fund now through August 8th on Sports Radio 810 WHB Blue Mondays to create a world of well-being.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Lunch provided by the Wiener Wagon today, so I'm looking forward to that. 11 to 1.
Surrounded by tools and wieners.
That's exactly right. You know what? That's a dream.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so we're going to get into this Andy Reid and Juju Smith-Schuster and Justin Reid and Trey Smith press conference takeaways. But Beards is all like, oh, we went really long with all those press conferences, and we got to play these breaks and everything. So on the other side of the break, we'll do that. But some fun with the Storm Chasers v. Syracuse Mets, with DeGrom on the mound for Syracuse and Salvi in the lineup for Omaha. Drew Waters led off the game with a walk, by the way. He now has 5 walks in 10 games with the Royals. He had 16 in 50 games with the Braves, AAA. He's got 5 and 10. Salvi then struck out. Michael Massey flew out to Terrence Gore in center field. The next at bat for Drew Waters, he hit the 3-run shot to left field over the head of Khalil Lee.
Wow.
Hi, guys. It's Andrew.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk some Chiefs football. We're also going to talk with Bob Kendrick coming up in about 25 minutes from now. Take us through the weekend that was for him and the experience around Buck O'Neil going into the Hall of Fame. Quick update. As the Storm Chasers are facing off against the Syracuse Mets with Jacob deGrom on the mound. If you did not hear, Drew Waters led off the game with a walk. And then his next at bat hit a 3-run shot to left field, opposite field for Drew Waters against Jacob deGrom. Updating his numbers now, currently in his 11th game with Omaha. Now, Drew Waters, his slash line is 292, 383, 512 for an 895 OPS in 11 games, 2 home runs, a double, a triple, 4 RBIs, 6 walks, and 15 strikeouts. In 11 games for Drew Waters. Very small sample size, they say, in the sport, but it is stark from what he was doing in AAA for the Braves to now 11 games with the Royals. We'll see if it continues, or maybe just it's a nice little change of scenery, and I'm gonna get hot for a little bit and then go back. Oh, he also stole a second off deGrom in the first as well, so we got a stolen base too. So, other than that, he's been terrible.
Other than that, my persistent take on this, and if this changes, I really feel like I'm trying to get baseball back a little bit right now. I think it's partially just because doing this show, we're no longer opposite a bunch of Royals 24/7 and all that. So, and I used to love baseball, so I'm seeing if it's still in there. I'm not sure it's growing or not, but I think maybe I'm watering that seed again, and seeing if it'll pop up. I do not think I will ever be a good baseball fan, at least insofar as what it means to be a patient good baseball fan. I just want I know obviously Waters is not just your typical prospect case, but I just want to see every single unknown in the big leagues as soon as possible. I just want to know if I'm right to be excited, if there's a little spark we can see. I know it's not always the right move. I'm not even saying it's always the correct thing to do for their own sake. I just always want to see it. I will always be irrational and impatient, I think, about any prospects that have shown a glimmer of being pro-ready. I am ready for them immediately.
913-912-4810. So Andy Reid, he was going through the different players, injuries, and things like that. At the beginning of the show, or at least late last night, early this morning, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire will start on the PUP list for the Chiefs. Then he walks out to the practice field with his helmet on, just to give you an update as to what has taken place today, if you have not heard. Walks out to practice with his helmet on. He practices, not on the PUP list. Andy Reid said that they put him on the PUP list. He had to finish up some testing, and then he's good to go and is ready to go out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like conditioning type deal. Or do you pass your conditioning test so you can be out there and play for whatever you might have been doing? And, okay, you didn't yesterday, so we're going to put you on the PUP list. You did this morning. Great. Now go practice. Thanks a lot, Clyde. All good in the hood.
Here's what I know definitively. Andy Reid said today, the phrase was to finish his testing, as you said. He didn't say what the testing was.
Right. No, I'm just I'm speculating.
But I'm also speculating that I've heard that yesterday is when they were doing their conditioning tests as your last sort of thing and only thing to do on an off day. And he was out there today doing the full work, leading the running back room. It seems like that's got to be it, right? Like maybe there was a medical red flag of just like, whoa, hey, don't do your testing today. Mm-hmm. Let's look at this first. I think somebody tweeted that he was wearing some sort of compression sleeve on one of his legs. So he might not have, I'm not saying Clyde showed up, with Cheeto dust still on his fingers, but it could have been a number of reasons that it looks like Occam's razor here is something went wrong in testing yesterday. Looks good today. And then Andy Reid also said that Frank Clark was sick and had some sort of test. I'm guessing that he was about 15 minutes late to practice because he was waiting, just like I was early this morning, waiting on to see if that second line shows up on that little 15-minute COVID test.
You think him showing up to practice or showing up to camp under the weather and feeling ill and then getting the test this morning to make sure that he could go out and practice, maybe it was that?
I might be projecting because my nasal passages after this last 2 weeks, you could drive a train through my nasal passages because of the Q-tip situation.
Oh, good for you.
I've got great. I'll never be congested again as long as these stay open.
Good for you.
But I wonder. that would be the most sort of minor thing, I think, for Clark is, COVID scared? Let's give it a test. Nope,
Yeah.
negative. You're good. Hopefully that's the case. He was also out after practice today a little bit. I don't know if you saw the clip of him working with George Karlaftis. It's like a 5 or 10 second clip from KCSN. But he was showing a little spin move to Karlaftis, who was lining up behind him and everything. So it seems like certainly Clark was not carted off at the end of the day or anything. It seems like he was at least out there trying to impart some wisdom on Karlaftis.
Who was it that Tamba Ali, after a Chiefs game, was going through the hand fighting drills with an opponent, defensive end? Was it one of the Bosas? Was it like Nick Bosa?
It might have been. It would have had
His
to have
rookie
been Nick,
year?
right?
And
Or no, it had been Joey, I mean.
Joey. Yeah, not Nick, but Joey. Was it Joey or was it Nick? I thought it was a Charger, but was it a 49er?
It was probably Joey Bosa. I'm thinking about the timeline here. That would make sense. Tamba and Joey would have overlapped by a little bit, interdivisional, obviously. So
Maybe
yeah.
maybe a year or so.
Yeah.
But I just remember seeing that video after the game, and they're in their uniform, and he's sitting there going through different hand fighting things. Because Tamba's hands were amazing.
It was Joey Bosa.
It was Joey Bosa.
Yep.
Tamba's hands were amazing.
Incredible.
It was one of the best things about him is that how quick he was with the hand battles that he would have with the offensive lineman, and how he can escape and detach from the O-lineman. And he was sitting there teaching Bosa a couple of tips, which I know one of the natural reactions I saw was whoa, hey, what are you doing that for? But also the natural reaction is they're football players.
Yeah.
And it's about, helping somebody else out or helping this guy out, even though he doesn't play for your team. But when Frank Clark's out there with George Karlaftis after practice, that's awesome and good to see. It doesn't mean that Karlaftis is going to end up being, a stud, but it does remind me of Tony Gonzalez and Dwayne Bowe. Now, Dwayne Bowe turned out to be a pretty damn good receiver for the Chiefs, okay? And a good enough first-round draft pick. But when Tony Gonzalez and Dwayne Bowe, it was Bowe's rookie year and his rookie training camp, and Gonzalez is out there after practice working on the jugs machine, and he was like, Debo, come on over here. And Dwayne Bowe was like, nah, I got to go do this. And Tony goes, oh, you're good. You got it all figured out, man. Go right ahead. And Tony Gonzalez stayed out there for like another 30 minutes working on the jugs machine. And that was one of the first times I realized, and it sort of dawned on me, should have known this a long time ago, but sometimes it's slower for me to figure out sports. And I'm like, oh, that's why he's the best.
Yeah.
It's not just that he's naturally gifted. That's why he's the best, because everybody's going inside to shower, and he's the only one out here still working on the jugs machine, and he's Tony Gonzalez.
You could bronze him right now and put him straight to Canton this moment. Yeah.
So he's worked to be the best. He wasn't just naturally gifted, and everybody else has to work to try to catch up to him. No, he's surpassed everybody, and the other people that should be working to catch up to him are never going to do that, because they're not even doing what he's doing already, let alone having to go above that to try to catch up to him.
I think that really might be one of the biggest sort of just, not even misconceptions, but like oversights that people have with elite athletes all the time, is it takes both sides of this, where if I had Tony Gonzalez's work ethic, I still would not have been an NFL tight end. And if Travis Kelce had my work ethic, he would not be Travis Kelce. Like that.
Well, he'd still be Travis Kelce, just not a tight end.
He would not be the Travis Kelce, right? There are elements to that where we talked about Kyler Murray, kind of, some of that's funny, and some of it you get to Jamarcus Russell or whatever. And you have guys like Dwayne Bowe who are very, very good players who maybe as a rookie did not understand what his level to perform at was going to be. And I think by the time he was a veteran in Kansas City, probably picked up on some of that, especially when you're changing levels of competition. I mean, you can get away with a lot of that. In college, you have to, because you can't practice more than you're allowed to at times in college.
But in college, he was dominant.
Exactly.
And so did he have to stay extra? Did he do some stuff on his own and things like that? Just to, but continue.
But yeah, I think that's interesting. And Tamba Ali is the guy to have this conversation around also. I had a chance to talk to him for 15 or 20 minutes back at an event early before last season. And
was it on the air?
It was.
Did you record
it? Did make it back. I think it was live, and we played it back.
Good
so
for
we
you.
double.
Wow, you heard it twice?
I think we might have gotten some play out of
I'd like
that.
to steal one of those just for either Barlow or Lopez.
I talked to both Nicky Lopez and Scott Barlow that day also.
with Tamba, oddly enough.
No, they were. I literally talked to Scott Barlow, Nicky Lopez, Tamba, McCole Hardman. It was at the ADA signing, and And so whenever you talked about Nicky Lopez and Scott Barlow, I did think, hey, good news. I still have the best interview with Nicky Lopez that,
good for you.
That I think has been on these airwaves. I'm sure he's been on at some point.
No.
But one of the things we talked to Tomba about was his pregame routine. I remember vividly the picture of him at the end of the Colts playoff game or within the Colts playoff game, just blood on the white jersey, like one of the coldest shots in Chiefs history. Like that should be up there with Lynn Dawson smoking a cigarette. Like that's really, they belong together. But he talked about the pregame warm up and explained that his goal was to get completely exhausted before the game began so he would get his second wind at game time and then ride that throughout the rest of the game.
So then,
and then he's still doing work afterwards.
So the fourth quarter was his third wind?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. He explained it to me, and I understood that was working for him. But the idea of like, all right, I'm just going to exhaust myself before this NFL football game so I can have just a longer second wind, maybe. Some guys, it's a cliche at this point, but some guys are legit just built different at every level. Tomba clearly at the top of that list.
Well, Tomba was built different than just the average human in terms of his size anyway.
Right.
But compared to defensive ends in the NFL, he wasn't naturally blessed with the best athleticism.
Right.
Because he had to do things different for him to be able to. And part of his, a good portion of his sacks were, coverage sacks or never stopping working, always getting there, and he had to be technically sound.
Yes.
And when you got to be technically sound, that's the work ethic. That's putting in the work to be able to get the skill down to do that rather than just, I'm going to beat him around the outside because I'm simply faster than this guy, and that's what I'm going to do. And do I have to have a secondary move? Maybe, maybe not. Well, he had a secondary and a third dairy and a fourth dairy move and a non-dairy move.
A dairy-free move. Damn it.
Gotcha. He had all of those different moves because he worked at it. And Karlaftis is a guy that at times has been said, boy, he's quick enough and he's an athlete. And then at the end of his career at Purdue, it was, well, he's kind of got one move, but is he athletic enough to be able to make it in the NFL? So you've got to try to marry those two.
Yep.
If he's not the best, if he's not Myles Garrett athletically and size-wise, then you'd better be technically sound and have a second move and a third move. But if he drops weight and gets closer to what he was his freshman year when he was more explosive, then, yeah, you can rely on some athleticism, but it also helps to be technically sound. And the best defensive ends in the league have the explosiveness, but also have the second move, the third move, and are fantastic with their hands. So it's a small little thing to look at, but
it's fun. I like it. I think it's interesting. It shows it.
Well, yeah.
There's small differences between all these guys. I just pointed at we have a cutout of Travis Kelce's over your shoulder.
Yeah, that's what you got. That's why you pointed at it.
I'm just pointing at like the difference between Travis Kelce and Blake Bell is not what you would expect. Like anyone thinking about, oh, well, there's the best tight end in football and a guy who's excellent and a great blocker or whatever. The margins are so small. It's why whenever a guy takes one step back, it's why Julio Jones didn't end up signing until late July. Because if you show a hiccup, all of a sudden that roster spot might be spent better on a 24-year-old who's flying through his physical prime still. But can he do the things mentally that come with years of honing all of that? I just think that's what makes this sport, one of the many things that makes this sport so much fun.
Drew Waters just singled to center fielder Terrence Gore, so he is now 2 for 2, a single, a home run, and a walk. Is one Drew Waters today.
Bring him up.
As the Omaha Storm Chasers taking on the Syracuse Mets with Jacob deGrom on the mound today, and Drew Waters 2 for 2, a walk, a home run as well. And we'll see if he steals. He also has a stolen base. I should mention that. Also stole second in the first inning. So
he's not even 24 yet, man. He turns 24 at the end of December.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it when the trade first happened, and there's some context to this comparison that I was talking with Todd Lebo, and I said, well, Lorenzo Cain spent 6-7 years in the minors before he really, he was 26 in 2012. He was a 26-year-old Lorenzo Cain.
Good grief, was he really?
Yeah. And Drew Waters is a guy that's been in the minors for 5 years, and Lebo brought up the point and said, I am wondering if Drew Waters showed up his junior year of high school with jean shorts, no baseball bat, no glove, and a collared shirt to learn how to play baseball as junior in high school. And I said, touche, Todd. Touche. So probably not the best comparison of Drew Waters to Lorenzo Cain when Drew Waters was playing travel ball and doing all that stuff and playing with the best teams and the stud athlete, coming out of high school. And Lorenzo Cain was a guy who showed up with jean shorts, a collared shirt, no bat, no glove, and trying to learn how to play baseball. His sophomore, junior year, whatever it was in high school. Yeah, a little bit of a difference, so it makes sense as to why it took him some time to get through the minors. But
he's younger than Vinny Pasquantino.
Yeah,
he's at least a full year younger than Kyle Isbell.
Yeah,
that youth movement really could be a lot of fun. I just hope they keep adding to that and not blocking that.
We'll see what happens with Benintendi and Whit Merrifield. But good nugget on Frank Clark. That's awesome to hear. So he's there back at practice now.
Bring the nuggets.
Andy Reid also mentioned that Roderick Clark or Roderick Johnson. I'll get there eventually.
That's all right. It's new.
Clearly, I know who's playing left tackle for the Chiefs, at least starting.
Frank Clark will be playing left tackle.
I mean, maybe, He certainly knows how to get blocked at defensive end, so maybe he can then translate that to the other side.
Definitely some wisdom to impart on
100%.
Roderick Jones.
Those that can't do, teach. Those that can't teach, do radio.
Yeah.
Beat you there as well.
I'm slow today. I'm sorry. I got to speed this up.
Roderick Johnson, who is starting at left tackle today in the first day of practice. Andy Reid was asked about that. He said he performed well in the offseason, so we got the first crack at it. But they will rotate. He was then asked about Joe Thuney, and he said they're going to keep Thuney at left guard.
Probably not right now.
Probably not right now. Yeah, probably not right now. I wrote it down as Thuney for the time being, left guard.
Yep.
But what he actually said was probably not right now, which again, the two of us, what we sort of surmised with Roderick Johnson playing left tackle and now Andy Reid saying Joe Thuney, probably not right now, we'll leave him at left guard, is that they don't expect Orlando Brown to be out very long.
Right.
They don't expect it to be a long holdout to where they really have to figure out who the hell their left tackle is going to be on September 11th against the Arizona Cardinals. So that's good news. But we're just reading into things, trying to, sift through whatever information is out there and, complete and total speculate on what those things may mean.
If I had to pick a spot that you and I could just have, one of the biggest bets, this should be our first bet, I think, on the show together, is that I do think that there's something to it being Roderick Johnson over Jerron Christian at that spot right now, because I think they'd here's the numbers game at tackle is kind of interesting. We don't have time to talk about all this, but Darian Kennard's going to be a little bit of a slow on ramp. You expect him to take a little bit of time. You got Andrew Wiley locked in. I think you only have room for probably one more tackle because you've got Allegretti who can play both guard spots, and they've kept a designated center as a backup as long as I can remember. Even though Allegretti could play center, they've lost and brought back and cut and brought back Austin Ryder a few times. So the numbers game there at the offensive line spot is going to be interesting. But also if Johnson or Christian can show that they can play some guard, that also helps because the Chiefs love versatility at their offensive line spots. So that's kind of interesting if you're looking for perhaps a tertiary, that was the word you're looking for earlier, a tertiary camp battle. I think that offensive line depth is kind of interesting.
Were you so the bet you're saying we should make?
I this can't be our first. It's so
readdress the first one of the conversation we had in the first hour about Roderick Johnson v. Jerron Christian and Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
My theory is that Jerron Christian's still the backup. Roderick Johnson is a placeholder. That when Orlando Brown returns, Roderick Johnson goes to swing tackle. And Jerron Christian remains the second string left tackle, and he was in there with the second string today. And Orlando Brown 1, Christian number 2. Roderick Johnson is just a placeholder, and they're not going to mess up the other pieces of the depth chart with the guards and centers and tackles and everything. And Roderick Johnson, he performed well, gets the first crack at it. Hey, congrats, well done. And then when Orlando Brown gets in there, all right, slide out, go away. You're thinking that actually there is something to Roderick Johnson playing first team above Jerron Christian.
Yeah, I think at the very least it's rewarding him for apparently playing well in the mini camps and all of that. And I think so strongly about that I would be willing to bet up to one nickel with you. I've got 5 cents on, I don't even know what the terms of the bet would be.
Josh has 5 on it.
Yeah,
and
cents.
I would agree with you. But then we'd both be wrong.
That's dumb.
And that makes no sense.
No, that's fine. You should be right.
Wrong. Absolutely.
If I can be right and you can be, if I can be wrong and you can be right, I think that's still just good for the show.
One of us has to be right. Therefore, we can say, well, the zone was right about that. We've got 3 chances for somebody to be
Beards,
right.
just say Darian Kennard's going to start at left tackle.
It'd totally be Darian Kennard. Are you kidding me?
All right, we got
There
3
we go.
shots at it.
Man.
Week 1, starting left tackle, Andrew Wiley.
Jason Peters. Joe Tooney. Joe Tooney.
Eric Fisher's back at right tackle. Crazy.
Dang it. All right, we'll take a timeout. Come back. We are hoping to catch up with Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and talk to him about the weekend that was in Cooperstown with Buck O'Neill's enshrinement. We do that next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Alexa, tell the government that I did pay my taxes this year. Thank you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Look, man, he's traveling. Man is important, and he's going to a lot of different places. We will catch up with Bob Kendrick when we can. Yesterday, he's traveling from New York to another place, something along the lines, I'm not sure. And it didn't work out to have him on the show yesterday. And then today, also traveling back home today. And so at some point, we are planning on catching up with Bob Kendrick. But we know currently right now, traveling isn't necessarily the easiest. So we'll have that conversation with Bob here soon. I do want to give out this updated with his 2 at-bats so far today. So the updated Drew Waters at-bats, plate appearances, time with the Omaha Storm Chasers. So since being traded for. He is now batting .310, getting on base at .396. He is slugging .524 for a .920 OPS. He's got 2 home runs, a double, a triple, 6 walks, 15 Ks, and 3 stolen bases in his 10-plus games, 10.5 games played so far. It's a pretty good start. That's all it is a start, but it's a pretty good start for a guy who couldn't figure out the hit tool, had just natural ability, had some speed, can play some center field, but hopefully change of scenery and the Royals and their hitting program can give him a better idea of the strike zone, what to swing at, what not to swing at, maybe take a walk from time to time. He had 16 walks in 50 games with the Atlanta AAA this year. He has 6 walks in just over 10 games so far. So that's pretty good start for him. I would say this. If he can bat .310 and get on base at .396 and have an OPS of .920 in the big leagues, I think it's a good trade. I'm just going to go out on a limb right now and say if he does that as a big league player, trading the 35th pick is a good trade for him.
It's bold.
People may disagree, but I don't care what they say. I will gladly take your slings and arrows and your criticisms of telling me that I'm wrong. And it may turn out to be a pretty damn good trade with Franchy Cordero and Khalil Lee for Andrew Benintendi, depending on what the Royals get back for Benny this week. In the next 6 days, we'll find out. Maybe they're just waiting to go to New York so that he can just walk from one clubhouse to the other when they eventually trade him to the Yankees this weekend.
That trade, let me be clear. They have to trade Andrew Benintendi. That trade was worth it right now.
Well, yes.
If you look at what was lost there in that particular move,
because
it worked out already.
Because even if they don't trade Benintendi,
which they have to,
they'll give him the qualifying offer.
Mm-hmm.
He'll turn it down, and they'll get a top 35 pick in the draft, somewhere between 31 and 35, 36, something like that. So they would have traded Khalil Lee and Franchy Cordero for like the 35th pick in the draft, which they traded the 35th pick in the draft for Drew Waters and Andrew Hoffman and C.J. Alexander. So it would be like them trading Khalil Lee and Franchy Cordero for Drew Waters and Andrew Hoffman. That's what I'm saying. Even if they don't trade Benintendi.
I think it's time to extend Dayton and JJ. I think
that's what everybody. That's the cry by Royals fans right now is extend
Medini, Cal, extend everybody.
Another 10 years at minimum.
10
Another
more
10 years.
Yeah, I think that seems like a layup.
That's what everybody is yelling about. 913-912-4810. Pro Football Focus put this tweet out about an hour ago, roughly 11:30. Did you see this tweet?
Sure did.
About Patrick Mahomes?
Sure did.
So thinking back to Mike Sando's piece at The Athletic about the 50 different executives, coaches combined that ranked quarterbacks into different tiers, and Patrick Mahomes had 49 of 50 of these individuals that he talked to ranked him in tier 1. One dissenting vote, who was a veteran play caller, defensive coordinator, said that we love the unorthodox style of Mahomes and all of that stuff, but He's a guy that really hasn't figured out how to play in the pocket. And after his first read, it's just going to be street ball. And sort of a one-read guy.
Street ball.
One read, then get the hell out and just try to ad-lib.
One read.
Since 2018, Pro Football Focus put this out there about the one-read quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Since 2018, Patrick Mahomes, on throws, passed his first read. He's got a 91 PFF grade, which is first in all of football. He has 4,498 yards passing, which is first in all of football. And he has 39 touchdowns, which is first in all of football since 2018, after his first read for the defensive coordinator that said he is a one-read quarterback.
Well, of course, in this situation, first means worst, right?
His worst read?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
so like you want to be the 32nd there, right? Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yes. That's a good point. And that's what the D coordinator was saying is that, that
So
guy's
it's
first
just proof
in being
Mahomes
terrible.
Sucks.
He's the best bad quarterback in the NFL, and he's really good at it.
I don't actually think that, guys.
But Pro Football Focus, I appreciate that tweet because I would have no way of being able to go through and tabulate those numbers. And I know oftentimes people can scoff at Pro Football Focus numbers and just be like, dismiss them. But this one definitely works in the Chiefs' favor, so it's a great stat, and it's a great tweet. And I think whatever formula they are using is spot on.
It is useful because, like you said, somebody else can say, "All right, this looks like he went to his first read. All right, now we're on multiple reads here. Excellent. We're all happy." I did see that tweet and go, "Wait a second. They're using passing yards and passing touchdowns. Those aren't very rich metrics." But you also have the PFF grade, and so everybody's happy. It's a pro Mahomes stat, so we're all here for it. Just take away his first read, and then he turns into a pumpkin.
Now, I will also say, part of this could be, well, yeah, after his first read, he's playing street ball, and he's throwing the ball down the field, and it's bleep it. Tyreek's down there somewhere just scrambling around and throwing the ball, all this other stuff. But actually playing in the pocket, second and third read, I don't know. The guy doesn't have it.
That's a good point, actually.
Just devil's advocate to that tweet.
No, I think
can both be true.
Yeah, I think you're right because if you said, "Hey, this is a fictional world, friends," but let's say there is a world in which Patrick Mahomes makes his first read and then just bolts to his right and just starts looking downfield on the run, moving towards the line of scrimmage. Will he run it? Will he go downfield? Whatever.
Let's imagine he's Baker Mayfield.
Let's imagine
who
that
actually
he's
does that very often,
but with the same results. He could be playing volleyball, much less street ball, and it would still have been working at an MVP level for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
What is the 4 seasons? What is the problem, folks? What is wrong with that, Mr. Del Rio? I mean, anonymous defensive play caller.
Spags.
I think that
I'm still going with Spags because that Spags going. Well, Andy Reid wants him to continue to work and read through progressions, and Patrick Mahomes has talked about that's something he continues to work on. And without Tyreek Hill, there's going to be more of that and just simply going to the open guy. What if I said this guy's a one-read quarterback to really, really piss him off? Really make him mad that he's like, oh, yeah, I'll show you random anonymous defensive coordinating veteran play caller.
Member of the Washington Commanders. No, you're right. I like it.
I'm going to sit right here in the pocket, and I'm going to show you as I complete 85% of my passes, punk. All right? Yeah. Now what do you got to say? And Spags is just sitting back. Excellent. Excellent. Now we get to go out there, and I just get to go right after the quarterback because this offense is scoring at will because that guy is going through his second and third and fourth progression. And a tip of the cap, a thank you, a bow, and a curtsy to Andy Reid. You're welcome, sir.
What do you think is a better version of that story? One that is like a whole conspiracy throughout Arrowhead that they've all been like. This started with Clark Hunt. Clark Hunt and Andy Reid were just having a meeting. Like, hey, you know what? They asked about this anonymous survey thing. Or is it funnier if Spags did this and literally like only his wife knows? It's like, honey, you're never gonna believe what I did. This is gonna be great. This is gonna create some radio time filler. And it's going to make Patrick Mahomes an MVP again this year.
Listen. This is going to be great. This is going to be great. You're going to.
That's what I said.
Get in here. Okay, so this is so funny. I can't even tell you. So like, I said Patrick Mahomes is a one-read quarterback to somebody anonymously. Isn't that great, honey.
His wife at that moment had the bowl of meatballs that she was making, because I just know that she makes great meatballs, apparently. Just threw the meatballs up into the sky, let them all fall around, and they all just had a hearty laugh. I mean, it's just, that's gotta...
So she was laughing along with him. She wasn't, upset and frustrated with him.
No, she thought it was so good that she's like, hey, you know what? There should be cloudy with a chance of meatballs in here. We're living in a fantasy world.
So she wasn't the Italian mom that was sort of swinging the Italian bread at the dad to get out of the kitchen and stop tasting the spaghetti sauce and just hitting him over the head like a bat. I
think that anyone who had the pleasure of hearing Spags' master plan in this,
Yeah.
I don't want to say fictional world. We don't know that it's fictional.
No.
Hypothetical world, I think
be.
they just had to celebrate along
Here's
with
the
him
thing.
because it's evil genius.
Here's the thing. Do you know who the defensive coordinator was?
Oh, in the
Do you
article?
actually know who the defensive coordinator was that said that Mahomes was a one-read quarterback?
I could only manage an
But-
educated guess,
right,
but
but
I
you
do
don't
not.
know.
I do not know for a fact.
Beards, do you know for a fact?
No, Spags. We know that for a fact.
Oh, wow.
I don't know for a fact. So that doesn't mean it can't be Spags.
No, actually,
Of
it
course
was
it
Bob
could be.
Sutton.
Whoa! Wow, that's good. I like that, Beards.
Yeah, at least. But then Bob Sutton sitting back and going, "Hey, Spags, you want to learn how to sack the quarterback? Come and talk to me." Spags would go, "Yeah, Justin Houston and D Ford and Chris Jones. I got Frank Clark and Mike Dana,
and you had two of those guys in coverage at all times.
Yeah.
Who the hell are
and
you?
And you had Justin Houston guarding Antonio Brown on the most important snap of the entire season.
This is probably not the thing I would have done. I don't know. He might have had Dan Sorensen cover him. I don't know.
Yeah, Spags would, and then Bob Sutton's like, "You would have had Dan Sorensen. What the hell are you talking about?"
I'd like to hear their conversation. You know,
Yeah.
just both of them getting defensive, also over just a big plate of meatballs.
Both of them just arguing back and forth about what the other person did terribly with the personnel that they had at the time with the Chiefs.
I think more of that would be good. I think maybe that's
Yeah.
the next evolution of like the shop style. Just everybody sitting around, you know. Just get a bunch of old defensive coordinators to talk bleep at each other. Just get all the Ryans, the whole Ryan family. Just put them in a barber shop, put them in a chair, and see what happens.
I wish Buddy was still here because he would actually start throwing punches at people. Like he would be literally fighting somebody if that were to take place. If you could go and create that. So there you go. Pro Football Focus with their tweet that a 91 Pro Football Focus grade, which is first in football since 2018. Patrick Mahomes throws past his first read, almost 4,500 passing yards first after his first read, and 39 passing touchdowns after his first read. That defensive coordinator. But since Mike Sando's done this now 4 years in a row, and he asks 50 executives, coaches every year. I don't know if it's the same 50 or switches them up. But Mahomes was unanimous last year and unanimous the year before. That means the past 150 people to vote for Patrick Mahomes Tier 1 or Tier 2, he got 149 votes in Tier 1. You'd feel really stupid if you're the defensive coordinator.
You have to.
That 149 out of 150 people are seeing something that you don't. And maybe he's just like, you know what, I'm not going along with groupthink. That's what's wrong with this country.
Oh, man.
Not just going to be in an echo chamber. No, This is what I believe. You ask me what I believe, and my name's not getting out there, right?
Yeah, how anonymous is
Yeah.
this?
So you ask me what I believe, here's what I believe. That guy's a Tier 2 quarterback because you just simply can't have him carry you throughout a season. So I do wonder if it's like, you know, through 17, 18, 19 and a half games, he was a Tier 1 quarterback, and then the second half, the defensive coordinator's like, second half against the Bengals, like, yeah, that guy's a Tier 2 quarterback. Look at him.
He's the only one with the right to do that. I've already forgotten his name.
Lou Anarumo.
Tristan Enaruna, I believe.
Tristan Enaruna. That's exactly right.
Coordinator. Lou Anarumo. Old Lou, we call him.
What did I say?
Tristan Enaruna.
I said Lou Anarumo, right?
That's not what I heard.
Is it Devon Dotson or Devin? I think it's Devon. Also, I'm being told that Spencer Ware was put on the IR with a shoulder injury. He has a torn labrum, apparently.
Make this all one word. Lou Anarumo.
There you go.
Easy to remember, hard to remember, impossible to say.
Mm-hmm. Brisco probably doesn't get the Spencer Ware reference.
We have our own old Spencer Ware reference.
That
I
is
don't know
an
if I know what yours is.
Oldie but goodie.
Okay.
An oldie but goodie. I'll continue to go back to that Spencer Ware. It was the December 26th, 2019. Got on the air and talked about Spencer Ware and something around whether or why he wasn't playing or not going to play or the depth chart. And it was like this whole, longer like thought, like trying to like come up with these different topics. And then after I'm done with that opening segment, go to break and texts are coming in. It was like, yeah, Spencer Ware was put on the IR last night. Spencer Ware was put on the IR with a torn labrum.
Ooh, not like while you were alive. If that was like the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the day before was Christmas. I was not online during Christmas at all.
That's okay, I think.
We were visiting family in Louisville.
Yeah.
So I was not online at all. I woke up the next morning. After my show, I was driving back home. The family was staying there for another week. So I spent that morning hanging out with the kids, knowing that I would be coming in hot right around 11 o'clock Eastern to the station where I was doing the show, right around 10 o'clock Central Time to get in there, connect, and do the show. I did that so I could hang out with the kids.
Dad of the year.
And then I totally missed the Spencer Ware stuff. And I was driving in listening to the Border Patrol, and they hadn't mentioned that. They were talking about Spencer Ware, but when I got there and figured that out, that I was like, oh, that was the conversation they were having. Because as I was driving, I'm like, oh, that's a good, you know what, I can play off that. You know what, actually, this is what I think about that. Yeah, so that's the fun Spencer Ware stuff. Like, oh, wait, Spencer Ware's got a torn labrum? So any Spencer Ware reference is going back to December 26th of 2019.
I don't know if did you read what Ethan Strauss wrote about just sort of wrote
Spencer Ware?
about Woj or about Adam Schefter and the piece on him recently, kind of the always online lurking sort of.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, it's great. You should. It's incredible. But anyway, sometimes you either are constantly plugged into the matrix or you miss something a little bit. And if it's Spencer Ware going on IR, that's going to be crazy. I do want to be here whenever I tell you what happened with Tyreek Hill this offseason. I do think that's going to change kind of your outlook on the Chiefs. I don't know. Maybe we start small. He has a podcast now.
Really? So the Chiefs are allowing him to. They typically don't want him to talk to the media.
No.
How is he now having a podcast with? That's weird.
Yeah, and it is also strange. We talked about Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Mecole Hardman's gotten a lot of hype.
Yeah, it's good. You lose
a receiver.
You lose DeMarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle. You want to bring in a Juju and MVS. That totally makes sense. I'm on board. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might need to tell you during the break or something. But Tyreek Hill, he still loves you. He loves Kansas City.
Thanks,
Loves
Tyreek.
this team.
Appreciate it.
He's wearing different colors now, and it's not because the Chiefs have a new alternate
jersey.
Nope.
Beat you to that one, too.
It's a little. I think I was on the move on that one. We can call that one a draw.
I think
if
I
you
won
want.
by a nose though.
And I knew the word tertiary, so who's to say, kind of who's on top today?
Dial one back. All right, I'm at 2.5 now, not 3.5. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll
They
discuss.
traded Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins.
Well, now that changes the rest of the show. Did that just happen? Wow, let's examine that.
You've been driving for a while.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Text says, love you guys, or excuse me, says like you guys. I apologize. Another text said, love the show. Sorry, I've combined those. I apologize. Like you guys. I don't want to exaggerate.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll talk with Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock. He's from KSHB 41. If you didn't know that, he's the sports director there. So that's fun. Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock. 913-912-4810. We want to give away another pair of tickets to the 100-year celebration to Sports Radio 810, WHB, I should say. WHB's 100-year celebration, not Sports Radio 810. Brisco will be in attendance for the Sports Radio 810 100-year celebration. This is the WHB.
Pretty optimistic.
I feel good about it.
I'm glad you do.
Feel good about it. You're young at heart. That is
old at pancreas, so it's a real trade-off.
Thursday. Well, you know what? Burrow doesn't even have an appendix anymore, and he's playing in the NFL.
That's a great point.
Thursday, August 11th at the Midland Theater is when the 100-year celebration is going to take place, celebrating a night of sports and entertainment and broadcasting. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've been telling you all these different celebrities, local celebrities, national celebrities that'll be there. Maybe we haven't told you about those yet. Maybe we know about them. Maybe we don't. I'm not sure. We've been doing that every day and giving away tickets as well to the 100-year celebration. Proceeds going to four incredible charities: Big Brothers Big Sisters, Victory Project, ALS Association of Kansas City, and Sharewaves. If you would like to be a part of it in giving some money to the charities and also being able to purchase some tickets, which we aren't, having tickets available for sale, we're giving them away, or you can purchase them while the money goes to some incredible charities. 913-344-1529, 913-344-1529. Also have some corporate sponsorship packages as well. So that is out there, 913-344-1529, if you want to take part in that night that way. And Stephen St. John and Dustin Colquitt will be emceeing the event. And, talking to Colquitt last Thursday at the Valley Llama at Chicken and Pickle, him, sort of just wondering what's next. He's still getting phone calls from teams. He has not retired yet. It's just if there's a team that calls him and says, he's been getting phone calls as in like, hey, you're still kicking. Okay, well, cool. Just wanted to know and make sure that, you're on our list and things like that. If there's a team that calls him and says, we need you, we want you, he's then going to sit down with his wife to see if it is something they want to do, because the last couple of years it's been the not just driving down the road and going to practice at Arrowhead. He's in Atlanta. He's in Cleveland. He's in Pittsburgh, different places. But also something he said is maybe he might do some media, some radio stuff. He's kind of interested in that as well, and he'd be pretty good. And he's going to MC the event. So
hope he's not too good at that.
Right? I mean, that's always the worst. It's like, oh, hey, I'm really good, and I won a Super Bowl, and I played for 15 years, and now I'm better at your job than you are, and I just started. Yay.
It'd be nice if he would just start like a bad podcast first, just for like a year or two.
Yeah.
Just to give all of it, just to prove that he's not instantly good at everything.
Okay.
Dustin Colquitt, if you're listening, I know you are, just please don't be too good at our job, because I can't kick a football very far at all.
Do you want an update on Drew Waters?
Yes, this is the Drew Waters show. We're in the zone with the Drew Waters today.
Just singled. He's now 3 for 3 with a walk, so he's been on base 4 times. 3 for 3, 2 singles, a 3-run home run, a stolen base, scored a run. And because that just happened, I'm not able to do the up-to-the-minute specific updates.
I forgive you.
But before that at-bat, he had 42 at-bats with Omaha before that particular one. He was batting .310, getting on base at .396, slugging .524 for a .920 OPS. I'm going to go ahead and say his on-base percentage is now over .400. When you're at .396 with that few of at-bats.
Seems safe.
And you throw a 1-for-1 in there, I'm going to say it's somewhere around .320, .400. on-base percentage. And by the way, the first 2 at-bats for Drew Waters against Jacob deGrom. So the walk and the home run against Jacob deGrom in his rehab start. Salvador Perez went 1 for 3 today with 2 strikeouts. Drew Waters went 3 for 3 with a home run and a walk. If you ask me, Drew Waters should be the next catcher. Or something like that, I'm not sure. We'll talk with Bob Kendrick next.
Kansas City.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. We'll talk with Mick Shaffer coming up in about 15, 20 minutes from now. Right now, getting a chance to talk with the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And who better to talk about Buck O'Neil and the enshrinement into Canton and the Hall of Fame than Bob Kendrick joining us here in the zone. Bob, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to be back home, but still basking in the glow of what was a tremendous celebration of not only my friend Buck O'Neil, but for black baseball history in general with the induction of Bud Fowler and of course, the late, great Minnie Minoso.
Yeah, I can't imagine what this last week was like for you. Maybe, anxiety of maybe not getting enough sleep, looking forward to it, and then just being around everybody in Cooperstown, the enshrinement, and then doing different guest appearances, interviews, and traveling back home. Probably a whirlwind of a week for you.
Well, at some point, I guess I'm going to start acting my age. Because,
Don't do that.
No, exactly, because, Buck did this for so long. And he never cried about it, so there's no way that I can cry about it. And as much as a challenge as it is, particularly because All-Star Game was so close to the Hall of Fame celebration, so I was in Los Angeles for several days and then literally made that trek across country to get there for Cooperstown. But you're right. I mean, the minute you get there, the adrenaline starts to flow and the excitement of all the people who just had a lot of love for the work that we're doing at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, for Buck O'Neil. It was just beautiful.
Visiting with Bob Kendrick as our guest. So can you there's so many things I want to ask you about the weekend, but one thing in particular that I was just sort of curious about, I saw a picture of you standing. It might have been a picture they put out on during the Royals game, you and Joel and maybe Poznansky. You guys were standing at the spot where the plaque was going to go. It was like Saturday, so before the enshrinement. You guys were standing there, and it hadn't gone up yet for Buck O'Neil. Can you maybe give us an idea of what that moment was like for you as you were walking towards and you get there where you know that it's not there yet, but this is the spot where Buck's enshrinement and plaque is going to go in Cooperstown?
Well, and I had experienced that earlier in the month because I went out to Cooperstown to deliver the keynote address at the Cooperstown Symposium. And they walked me into the plaque room, and at that time, they didn't have the granite piece mounted on the wall, but they just had an area with masking tape that said O'Neil. And that was emotional. So I started to tear up a little bit then. And of course, when we get back to the Hall of Fame, now they've got the little granite piece mounted on the wall, and you know that this is even more real. And I'm there with my good friend Joe Poznansky and Joel Goldberg, and you're beaming with pride. And again, you're experiencing an array of emotions because it's still bittersweet for me, but it's more sweet than bitter. The more that I got engaged in this, the bitterness aspect of the fact that Buck was not here to celebrate this really started to diminish because, number one, I know he wouldn't want me to carry that attitude, and the timing, as he would always say, I was right on time. And I won't quite ever understand what took place in 2006, but you do get the feeling that what transpired this weekend happened when it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, he would say that. He would say it happened when it was supposed to happen. Bob Kendrick is our guest, and I know you've been asked to speak on Buck's behalf or try to come up with or present what Buck might have done or might be thinking. And so you've been had to do that a lot and been asked to do that. I'm not sure how easy it is to recreate that, but I'll ask you along those lines. What do you think Buck would be most proud of from the weekend that was?
Well, he would be obviously extremely honored to take his place amongst the immortals of this game. But for all of us who knew and loved Buck, understood that he didn't have a self-serving bone in his body. And he would have deflected much of that attention not to him, but to the 3,000-plus men and women who played in the Negro League. And so when he gave that speech in 2006, when he was there speaking on behalf of 17 others, all of them dead, he became their voice.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways, guys, I feel like it was indeed his Hall of Fame acceptance speech. even though he was there speaking on behalf of others. And I recall one emphatic line that he uttered, and I've been around Buck for a long time, and I've never heard him say what he said with the veracity in which he said it. And it was just a simple statement. I'm proud to be a Negro Leaguer. And it just resonated with me from 2006. And that pride that he felt is the same pride that we all felt, not just for him, because we already knew that he embodied that spirit of all of those pioneers who called the Negro Leagues home.
Bob Kendrick is our guest, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. That 2006, boy, a lot of emotions around Kansas City at the time. Most of it was anger when that happened. And I know not with him. One of the things I remember him saying was, "Don't be mad about the Hall of Fame because I'm a Hall of Famer." When that news came out. So I mean, obviously he is, and that's a good point. Of maybe that was his acceptance speech to getting in the Hall of Fame at the time. Do you think we would have the past 16 years or so with those players that Buck O'Neil was speaking on behalf of, and then Buck and Bud Fowler and Minnie Minoso and others in the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for Buck's work in the 90s with the museum, traveling the world, doing his own sort of modern-day barnstorming with the memories and stories of the players and how great they were? Do you think it would be at the level it is to where the players in the Hall of Fame and Major League Baseball recognizing the Negro Leagues as Major League Baseball stats if it wasn't for the work that he put in?
No. And that's not to slight anyone who may have had a hand in helping elevate this history, and certainly those who were so supportive in helping grow this museum. It just simply does not happen without Buck O'Neil. And again, I go back to his epic biography, I Was Right on Time. Mm-hmm. And when Ken Burns reintroduced Buck, because Buck had already been a star in the Negro Leagues, but when Ken reintroduced him to America, he became an even bigger star at age 82. When most of us are getting ready to shut it down, it jettisons an entire new career for Buck, and he may have been a bigger star at that age than he ever had been before, because America fell in love with this very charming, gentle man who was telling us about these stories of baseball that we really had not heard. And guys, he did it with a twinkle in his eye and a smile that lit up the screen. And you're right, the good Lord blessed him to live another 12 years, as I like to say, where he was literally gallivanting across this country, preaching the gospel of the Negro Leagues and the virtues of his museum to any and everyone who would listen. So, no, I don't think that we would have seen this level of attention around the Negro Leagues had it not been for the tireless effort of Buck O'Neil.
Which is why, I mean, obviously he should have been a Hall of Famer before and should have been able to experience it, and that's where the bittersweetness comes in. But I did appreciate when his niece was up there and giving the acceptance speech on his behalf, and one of the lines that she said was, she's appreciative to the Hall of Fame for overlooking a focus specifically on numbers and stats to see the totality of his impact on baseball. And that, to me, is what was missed, 16 years ago. That was the part that was overlooked, because baseball is so much about stats and connecting the generations and all of those things. And if it's just about numbers, you kind of lose the plot a little bit about the Hall of Fame and what it means for these players that are in Cooperstown as a Hall of Fame. If it's just simply numbers, well, then just put them in a baseball almanac. It's the impact of what they did on the game. And, Bob, I appreciated that line of finally overlooking and seeing what Buck O'Neil did for the overall game of baseball for the Negro Leagues, that if you're going to enshrine Negro Leagues players, then Buck O'Neil, it would be hard to tell the story of the Negro Leagues and baseball without him.
Well, you're absolutely right. And people oftentimes ask me what changed between 2006 and last year when the vote was tallied in terms of his resume. Nothing. His credentials did not change. Mm-hmm. But what changed was the committee changed. And I do think the work that we continue to do in terms of really helping people understand the magnitude of Buck O'Neil's impact on this game over 7 decades also helped. But the committee changed, and their insight was a lot different. They didn't try to pigeonhole him into one specific category because Buck O'Neill's career was so expansive and he excelled in so many aspects. You just look at what the man did. Like you said, the body of work. And that spoke for itself. It spoke way back in 2006, and perhaps people just didn't really pay attention. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. And I think that was the case in 2006. Or I was about to say, you get 12 really smart people and they do something really dumb because they spend so much time analyzing and overanalyzing something that really needed no analysis.
Bob Kendrick is our guest. That's a great way to put it. You know, sometimes too smart is stupid. And and looking back, I think that was one of the things that took place with that. You tweeted out a picture. I know you weren't there, but you tweeted out a picture of Mike Trout and his family going through the museum. What's that like for you when these major league players of today are taking some time out of their day when they're heading to Kansas City and they're playing a series against the Royals, and they're going to the museum to see that? Because obviously we mentioned without Buck O'Neill, without museum, without you, Bob, these players come into Kansas City, do something else, and then they leave Kansas City, and they don't walk away with the knowledge, appreciation, better understanding of what took place and the players that were in the Negro Leagues and how good they were and all of the different stories and things that you see. What's that mean to you, and what do you take away from when you see like Mike Trout and other professional players when they come into Kansas City make a point of heading down to 18th and Vine?
Oh, man, it's always special. It always. It has been from day one when we were able to get those major league athletes to come in. And it used to be where I was having to try and convince them that they should come and see the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Now the teams are calling.
Yeah.
Mike Trout reached out through Sam Mellinger at the Kansas City Royals to let me know that he wanted to bring his family down. And to have Mike Trout, who is one of, if not the biggest star in our game, think enough to want to bring his family to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and then other folks see his presence there, all it does is continue to build, I think, that strong desire for others to want to. If Mike Trout can come, if Bryce Harper can come, if Mookie Betts can come, then, I need to go down and see the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum as well. And, guys, it never gets old for me. It just doesn't. I never get tired of sharing those stories with those athletes. I was disappointed that I missed Mike. I was on my way back from Cooperstown when they came down to see the place. But Ray Doswell, who works for the museum, did an outstanding job of taking them through, and I think they really appreciated it from everything that I understand, the aftermath of that visit.
What's your a couple more for you, Bob, and we'll let you go. And I know there's got to be a time for you to just sit back and relax.
I don't know when that's going to be.
maybe there isn't that. I don't know. But do you have a lasting memory, something that from the weekend that was in Cooperstown of something that you take away, and a memory or a moment there this weekend?
There were so many of them, but hanging out with my good friend Joe Posnanski. We met in Albany on Thursday, had dinner, and then we drove together from Albany over to Cooperstown. And you know how instrumental Joe has been.
Yeah.
For those who have not read his book, The Soul of Baseball, A Road Trip Through Buck O'Neill's America, do yourself a favor, pick it up. And pick it up from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Now, I know you can buy it anywhere, but pick it up from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. It should be required reading for every high school student in the country.
I'm with you. It's amazing.
And so Joe and I, we call each other brothers, even though we're not blood brothers. We're as close as brothers. And we had a chance to ride over to Cooperstown again. And both of us previously had been a little bit disenchanted by the fact that this has come so late, And but the closer we got to Cooperstown, our spirits started to change. And I just remember we dropped off our bag at the hotel. We hopped in the car, and we went to downtown Cooperstown. I guess if you can call Cooperstown having a downtown. But, and it was starting to bristle with activity. And we started walking on Main Street. And I get besieged by fans who just wanted to express their gratitude for the work that has been done, the work that we're doing, and how much they love Buck, how much they appreciate, what they believe that I may have done in this process. And, the same thing with Joe, and everybody wanted to take pictures, and they even had me sign an autograph. Now, I devalue so many balls this past weekend, but
Too modest, man. That's great. Bob,
but,
go ahead.
that will be a lasting memory for me. And then to be there when they actually install the plaque at the plaque ceremony.
Wow.
And to be the first one to really get up close and personal outside of the young man who mounted the plaque. I think that is what will stay with me. But the entire weekend, sitting down with our owner, John Sherman, and let me say this, because I'd be remiss with not saying it. I got to tip my hat to John Sherman and all the folks at the Kansas City Royals who were our co-hosts of this weekend's celebration. And the owner of our baseball team is there sitting in the hot sun with the rest of us, watching and enjoying this induction because he understood what this meant not only to Kansas City, but to the baseball world. And he and I did a press conference together. We had a wonderful Hall of Fame brunch celebrating Buck, and Lee Smith was there, and getting a chance to see Billy Williams and Ozzie Smith and Dave Winfield. All these guys are connected to Buck. And so it creates, I think, really lasting memories that I'll carry the rest of my life, or as my mother would say, as long as I'm in my natural mind. And so, it's so much, I just take away so much from that entire experience.
Bob, one thing that I continue to be curious about is because at every single turn, you'll talk about Buck, or you talk about Poznansky, or the other people that have been alongside you throughout this entire process, from the museum to the Hall of Fame and all of that. But did you take any point since the announcement that Buck was going to be enshrined through this last week, did you ever take any time to be, I don't know, a little proud of yourself, and instead of deflecting to all the other people? I know you didn't do it alone, but did you take a moment yet of letting it soak in and appreciating what you've done here?
I still think it's soaking in, but when the announcement of the vote came through in December, Sunday, December 5th, about 5:45 p.m., but who's counting? When I finally got to exhale, because having endured that process in 2006, you know that these secret ballot processes that they put in place for this, secret ballots are never good. And so you already understand what can happen. And so we were all very nervous leading into the vote itself and waiting on the announcement to come. And when it did come back and the verdict was favorable this time around, I finally had a chance to just quickly exhale, because now it's done. He's in. And then you become overcome with emotions. And so, it's just been the gamut. So I think at some point in time, but, we've got so much riding on induction. So it's not any time right now to pat yourself on the back. The one thing that I've learned in all my years of working at the museum, there are really no laurels in this business. You get a brief moment just to kind of say, okay, that's very cool. And then, it's right back at it. My board's going to look at me and say, that's all good, but what have you done for me lately? And so,
what have you done for me next?
And so I know that we've got so much riding. We've got a press conference on Friday at 11 o'clock here at the museum, where we're going to roll out our plans for our Thanks a Million Buck campaign. And we need to do exactly what Buck O'Neil would have wanted us to do had he gotten in 2006. And that is to use his Hall of Fame celebration to raise much-needed resources for his museum and for the completion of the Buck O'Neil Education and Research Center. And so come Friday, along with our friends over at Hy-Vee, we're going to roll out some plans that we've got in place to continue this Hall of Fame celebration. So it didn't end in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
We're now bringing the celebration home to Kansas City. And we want to hopefully have a lot of people involved in continuing to celebrate this milestone and historic occasion of Buck O'Neil's long overdue induction into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. I think once we can get through the end of the year, and hopefully we'll be able to do some of the things that we think we can accomplish along this journey, then I'll be able to kind of exhale completely and reflect on what has transpired over what's going to be just a remarkable rest of this year.
Well, with your role there, I don't know if you heard what Harold Reynolds said, but it was one of the things that I really took away from the entire broadcast and the coverage. I talked about it on Monday, Bob, that Harold Reynolds said that, with the Negro Leagues players, that Buck O'Neil and his stories and talking about them kept the memories of the Negro Leagues players alive. And Bob Kendrick doing that since Buck O'Neil's death has kept the memory of Buck O'Neil alive.
And guys, that was my intent from day one. I don't want people to ever forget Buck O'Neil.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as I've got any say in the matter, Buck O'Neil will always live here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and hopefully throughout the baseball world. I've oftentimes said I wish every child had an opportunity to meet Buck O'Neil and be touched by his spirit, and they can still be touched by his spirit when they come and visit the house that he built here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. But it is part of my core to make sure that Buck O'Neil is never forgotten. I'm sure people will always say, well, he always talking about Buck. Yes, he is. Yes, he is, and he will continue to talk about Buck because Buck had that kind of impact on my life.
Right.
And he had that kind of impact on this great city. And he had that kind of impact on the baseball world for those who had been forgotten who played in the Negro League. So I apologize right now for continuing to talk about Buck O'Neil.
No apology needed. That's the pat on the back. That's a life's work, man. That's keeping that spirit alive. It's needed in each and every day in life, and no matter what time in a country or a world is going on, it's needed. The spirit of a Buck O'Neil. Real quick before we let you go, our friend Kevin Joshin's on Twitter, who I communicate with a lot on Twitter. He had talked about and said, it'd be awesome if there was like a TV show or a movie around the Negro Leagues and things like that. And you replied and you said, hopeful that a movie or TV series will happen in the near future. Is that just you simply being hopeful, or is there maybe something that might be there that not necessarily right around the corner, but could be at least maybe in the works or talking?
Yeah, no, there's definitely some things in the works. You know how these things are in a preliminary fashion, so you never know, but this history right now is as hot as it has ever been. The Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is as hot as it has ever been. And we want to try and capitalize on this opportunity while we have this great interest. But this museum is filled with so many stories that basically lends itself almost naturally to a big screen or perhaps even better, a scripted TV series.
Yeah.
Because the story itself is so expansive that it's hard to tell the general story of the Negro Leagues in 90 minutes. It's just too difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
But a multi-year, multi-episode scripted TV series, I think, has great legs. And I sure hope they make old Bob the executive producer.
I hope they do too. You'll have a champion in me and rooting along with you and trying to promote that as much as possible. That would be great. That would be really awesome. And so my eyes lit up a little bit when I saw that tweet, and I was like, I got to ask him about that before we let him go, just to see if maybe it's one of those, hopeful something in the future. Okay.
I think there are some things coming down the pipe, not only with the possibility of some cinematic portrayal of the Negro Leagues, but again, it's our challenge, and we're challenging ourselves every single day to make this history relevant. So we're looking at things from virtual reality to video game possibilities, so they span the gamut because the Negro League just kind of lends itself to that realm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for me and our team to not wait for young people to come to us. We got to go to them. And I have to go to them in means and modes in which they relate to so that I can make this history relevant in their lives today. And we're just continually trying to challenge ourselves to do that. So, be on the lookout for what I think are going to be some pretty creative and innovative projects coming down the road for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
Are you thinking about running for office at any point, Bob?
Oh, no.
The office of the Buck O'Neil memory. He's president of that.
No, no, Mom ain't running for nothing.
Well, you'd have my vote.
That's what
I
I
don't
was
even know.
thinking.
I don't even know what the platform is, but
Yeah.
you'd have my vote.
No, I'm going to leave the politics to the politicians. So I'm going to keep my day job.
I'm
guys.
with you. Bob, thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed it. What an amazing week for you, and everybody in Kansas City had an awesome weekend as well. And for Buck O'Neil to officially, finally be in his rightful place there in Cooperstown. Thank you for the time today and sharing the stories and your experience there in New York. Appreciate it. And, I would say, take a few days off and rest your feet, but, don't get back to work because Friday, the Thanks a Million Buck press conference coming up.
$1 million. Saturday, the hot dog festival returns.
There we go.
So it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be a lot of fun in the process. And I do want to say thank you to everybody at home for all the love and support that they have steered toward Buck O'Neil and this museum over the course of this past week. It is felt and it is deeply appreciated by all of us.
Absolutely. Bob, you're the man. Very much appreciate you carving a few minutes out for us today.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and maybe executive producer of something being a cinematic or even a scripted TV series around the Negro Leagues.
But not public office, which I do not blame him for.
No, not yet. Yeah, when he tweeted that out a couple of days ago, when we had talked about the Monday we were talking about the enshrinement ceremony, and I got a tweet that was like, I'm just thinking that why isn't this coming alive on the big screen or something along those lines, and then Bob Kendrick replying and saying hopeful that a movie or TV series will happen in the near future, and now we know there is actually something going on behind the scenes of whether that's going to be a movie or, as he said, it would be better suited for a multi-series season scripted TV show. That would be awesome. Netflix, Prime, Hulu, Apple Plus, get on it. Figure it out, because you go to the museum and your script is already there. Your entire script has been written for you in the stories there. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, hang out with Mick Shaffer coming up next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Go next to Mick Shaffer. Go ahead, Mick.
Sorry, it's actually Mackenzie.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thank you to Bob Kendrick joining us, talking about Buck O'Neil and the Hall of Fame induction for Buck. Awesome stuff over the weekend, and always awesome stuff talking with Bob Kendrick. And that would be pretty awesome, continuing that theme of awesomeness if they do come up with some sort of a TV series or even a movie. But he's right. Telling the Negro League story and all the things that you can tell in 90 minutes doesn't nearly do it justice of how good that can be. You can go episode by episode where you're going through a season of the Negro Leagues and it might be portraying a particular player that day. You know, that guy is going up to bat and then you go into his life of what's happened and then you continue that game or whatever. Like, that could be a whole season of just different players being portrayed. I mean, you'd have like 10 seasons worth of a lot of stuff that you can get into there. So
you could make it all about Buck, and he could almost be like a Forrest Gump type character within baseball. All the decades, 8 decades of a life in baseball, and all of the baseball greats he interacted with. Satchel Paige in the Negro Leagues.
Hearing the sound of Josh Gibson in the bat, Jackie Robinson.
Cool Papa Bell, right? All those guys. And then transitioning into modern day when baseball began to be integrated, and he was a scout, and Lou Brock, we've heard those stories, and I'm sure he had dinner with countless other famous Major League Baseball legends, and then get into the 80s, whenever was it the 80s or 90s when Ken Burns discovered him, and he basically made that documentary about baseball, and then more and more people learned about him and the Negro Leagues Museum, and then just all the greats that have toured this Kansas City Museum at 18th and Vine. He, like I said, he could almost be this Forrest Gump type character within the sport of baseball.
It's awesome, man. It's totally cool. Mick Shaffer is with us here.
And look, I would have been upset had it been, someone like Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid or George Brett or Tom Watson who would have bumped me.
Yeah.
But Bob Kendrick, I'm cool with. I would have been pissed otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
It would have just been Patrick Mahomes. Or
Yeah. I'm like, what? Okay, really? That's how you value me? But Bob Kendrick, I'll take it back. See ya.
Mick walks in like a little bit before 1, and he's on from 1 to 2, and he's like, okay, getting ready to sit down. I said, hey, sorry, we got to bump you here for like 20 minutes. And he threw something against the wall.
Yeah.
And I said, it's for Bob Kendrick. And then he immediately
I ran over and picked it up.
Felt bad. That tear fell. He was so sorry and apologetic. So thank you for that.
I've already started patching the drywall.
It was. It looked sincere. The apology felt sincere. throwing something was really sincere. That was the true emotion, but then the apology felt sincere as well.
I'm a horrible aim, though.
It was
Yes.
just
for you.
so surprising to have what I thought at the moment was the name, image, likeness director for the Oregon Ducks walk in and start throwing a fit because he wasn't immediately getting on air. I went, oh, it's just Mick in a very bright yellow shirt.
I ran by to get my lunch today. My wife was at the restaurant, ordered me something, and there's some construction guys outside. I walk by, I'm like, we have the exact same color on, don't we? Yes, we do.
Yours is just a polo, so you look like their boss at that. You might have been
And
able to
you know
fire
what? It
someone.
works. I walk into work, and everybody, like Josh and TV station, everybody's going to be like pointing out how bright and colorful it is. I'm like, okay, that's a good reason some of these guys out on the road
Good for you.
wear this color.
Good for you. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us, heading up until 2 o'clock. So camp starts today, or at least the practices start today. This morning was a really interesting morning around the first day of training camp practice because you've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the PUP list. And then he's not. So he's on the PUP list for like 10 minutes.
It takes you longer to say physically unable to play than he was on the physically unable to play list.
Yeah, and Frank Clark was not at training camp, but was actually at training camp, was just a little bit late for practice because he was taking an additional test because he was ill. He apparently passed that test. And also, Travis Kelce got a restructured contract today. All of that happening this morning, and then we find out that Roderick Johnson, 1, exists, and 2, was a starting left tackle with the first team at practice. It was an amazing 2 hours of information coming out of training camp, and that was within the first 2 or 3 minutes of the actual camp after they stretched when the first team went out there with Roderick Johnson. Everything after that, oh, Justin Reed intercepted Patrick Mahomes. Oh, Sky Moore had a fun catch. Regular practice. Oh, insert practice scene here. Insert observation there. But it was really that 2 hours leading up to the practice and then finding out that Frank Clark actually was there. That was the bulk of everything that happened today. And it was all happening very fast.
Fast practice. It was a season ticket holders practice, I believe. Tomorrow was the first one open to the public. I think they'll go a little bit longer then. And cool thing is they've got the autograph sessions back. I think it might be linebackers tomorrow, something like that.
I know that if you're looking for just the quarterbacks' autographs, you're looking at a Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Tuesday, there will not be a quarterback's autographs on a Wednesday because I looked through to see about Little Man, and each time the quarterbacks are available, it's a Tuesday or Thursday at 9 in the morning.
And there's multiple times for the quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, there are I think 3 practices, so different position players in the 2 or 3.
You keep saying
players.
they're multiple quarterbacks matter to you. Just say him, where he's signing.
You don't want Shane Buechele?
That is a training camp tradition right there. I have a football from, I don't know, it wasn't long enough ago for me to seem like I'm not a little baby still. But from some year, you just are going to have Eric Berry and Turk McBride. They're
right.
they are side by side. I have a football that Todd Haley signed. I was very excited about that at the time. Wasn't very old.
Absolutely.
You have to say here's my helmet signed by Jamal Charles and Jackie Battle. That's just how that works.
My nephew has a Dante Hall jersey signed by Eddie Kinnison. Because who doesn't?
I don't know. That's
who doesn't
good.
have that?
My son's Jason Tatum jersey is signed by Robert Williams for the Celtics, who at the time was an unknown 13th man when we went and saw him play in Oklahoma City.
Or Grant Williams.
And now he
could
gets,
be one of them.
Now he gets some playing time, so he's no Jason Tatum, but he at least sees an NBA floor.
So there are 3 days that the quarterbacks will be signing autographs. Tuesday, August 2nd. So
and it's before practice?
Trade deadline. It's after practice, but it's just who's available. So practice starts at 9:15, and they typically go an hour and a half to 2 hours. And after that, quarterbacks, running backs, and specialists. So you can get Winchester's autograph and Patrick Mahomes on the same football if you want to.
That will happen.
If you're into that. So quarterbacks, running backs, specialists, that's August 2nd, Tuesday. Practice starts at 9:15. And then Thursday, August 11th, another 9:15 practice. Quarterbacks, running backs, and specialists. We'll go then. And then
you won't be there. It's a big day for 8-10 that day. I don't think you'll be there then.
Yeah, probably.
You better be pre-gaming.
I can be there that morning.
You'll be pre-gaming.
I may not be there.
Yeah, I'm going to be pre-gaming just out in front of the Midland, just hammered at noon.
I probably wouldn't be there Friday morning You know, a lot of people around here, if they had anything availability for Friday morning, nobody 8:10 is going to be there
Good
for that
point.
one. I hope they do that one on the Zoom. Because
No
Friday
practice
morning,
on Friday is the 12th is a huge victory.
Yeah, they're traveling to Chicago for the Bears, and then
I will be here at 9:58 that day, just so you know.
Wednesday, August 17th is another 9:15 a.m. practice, and that's the quarterbacks, running backs, and specialists. I mean, that's 9 o'clock in the morning when kids are just starting school. Probably been in school for like a week. They're like, yeah, I'm taking them out of school because we're going to go up to training camp because that might be the day to go, though.
Because less kids there.
Between now and then, most of the fans have probably been up there, got their feel, and midweek morning practice, kids are in school. August 17th might be the time to go there if you want Shane Bichelle's autograph. Or Chad Henne.
Or Crum. What's his first name?
Denny.
Dustin.
Is there any relation there? I looked. He's not from Louisville. But.
Yeah. How many crumbs are out there? You know,
two at least.
Can't be many crumbs. There's at least two, a Denny and a Dustin Crum. So those are the different quarterback autograph days. I like when Justin Reed was like, yeah, there are more fans here today than there were at Fan Days in Houston. It's like I can't imagine what a Fan Day is going to look like. Maybe it'll be like a spring game. A Fan Day.
He's
here.
a fun guy to talk to.
I love hearing Justin Reed talk.
And a lot of the females I know in my life are big fans of his as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm sure it's for the sound bites.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. Yes.
Ladies love good sound bites.
They do.
That's
from football players.
GS? I don't know.
Like,
so
okay,
that was LL Cool J's first name
Ladies
before he
love good
changed
sound
to LL Cool J.
What a guy with a good sense of humor, confidence, great sound bites.
Also, professional athlete.
Also makes a ton of money.
Massive sound bites, though, is really important.
At least got to be 6'4".
Good looking.
Can bench press 315 at a minimum.
Great genes to pass down to our offspring. Other than that, I mean, I'm really not picky at all. Just
Outside
whatever.
of that, I'll take anybody left in that pool of 7.
Luckily, there's only 7 friends here, so I'll take the 7th. I'll take it 7th place. I might have the lowest among our friends, but I will come in first in every other group of
Hopefully
friends.
there's no other women in America. There's just 7 right here.
It's just you. So all of that took place, and we didn't really get a chance to start into some of the things we were going to talk about today. So we'll do a quick little roundtable type deal. Okay. What's the focus for you, Josh, me, Beards, in training camp? A storyline or a focus as today's the first practice, things that you'll be looking at throughout camp and maybe get a better idea of what this team
Can I go
could
first?
be.
I'll
Yes.
do the easy one.
Yeah, go first.
You guys go outside the box. Wide receiver, right?
Okay.
Not necessarily who's going to be like Tyreek Hill, but who's going to, and it's doesn't have to be just one person, who's going to make up his production, who is number 15 going to be looking toward the most, and maybe kind of get a hierarchy of those receivers. Is it going to be Juju or MVS, or could it be Sky Moore? He's looked really good.
Yeah.
And just obviously the rookie and quarterback portion of camp. Could he be the guy that gets the most targets on this team? So that's the storyline for me. I feel like we'll be cussing the defense like usual. They'll have no pass rush. Right?
I like how you didn't mention Hardman in that, by the way.
No, I didn't. Sorry, I forgot to.
Well, he's a returning guy. Everybody else is new.
Right.
Everybody else is new.
We know. It could be McCole. I imagine in the ZOUs that'll be like, oh, who's going to lead receiving outside of Travis Kelce? And I'll get it wrong like I always do.
Why does it sound like that? Is that how I sound when I say the ZOUs? It's weird.
Who's gonna lead the receiving group? I think Travis Kelce.
So
that's my focus.
Okay, great. There was a picture, and I don't know if it's an optical illusion, but apparently Sky Moore has tree trunks for legs.
Yeah.
He's
good
thick.
night.
He's thick with 2 C's.
Yeah, he's built like Groot.
Yes. What if he gets to the podium and just says Groot?
One of those
Groot.
I am Sky.
Sky.
He's one of those guys that the neck just goes straight up to the face.
Yeah.
Like there's like thick
You don't
neck,
want to fight
built.
him.
Yeah, no.
Corey has this theory that people with no necks are the ones you don't want to fight. Anybody with a long neck,
No,
you can
he's
beat
got
him
a
up.
neck, but it's thick.
It's a thick neck, yeah. So Harvey Williams, Corey could take him. Aeneas Williams, take him. Giraffes, weakest animal
Giraffes, I could definitely.
in the wild, that's for sure. So two things to that. One, tree trunks for
Does
legs.
he really still talk about Corey in front of you?
It's like so often. He calls me the wrong name sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a whole secondary
I
joke
call
to
him
that.
Jory from time to time.
That one's the worst because you get it right for the first half and then get it wrong. It's
So
like
I say Judd, and I'm like, man, I really wish it was Corey.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, I don't know, man.
Better than Kosh.
Yeah, that's true.
Korsh.
Korsh
is in here. But also, to go along with that, the 5th and 6th receiver, too. Because Justin Ross is on the IR. It's not going to be him. People, the camp darling of watching Justin Ross, and he's going to make the team. That's not going to happen. So we know who the 4 are. It's just a matter of what's the hierarchy in those 1 through 4. And 5th and 6th, who knows? Could be the Watson guy that Patrick Mahomes likes. Could be Josh Gordon that the Chiefs feel like really close. Gordon's really close.
Man. He got a touchdown last year. Stop making fun of him.
He's close.
No, yeah, there was that 1-yard touchdown pass.
That only he could have scored on.
Was great.
They couldn't have grabbed somebody out of the stands and scored on that play at all. It was only Josh Gordon that could do that. So
played just for him.
That's right. So I would throw in the.
By the way, how weird are the NFL rules? Like IR in the regular season now is like 4 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You go IR preseason, you're done for the year. Out. You hear me? Done for the year.
You can't come back.
PUP in the regular season is 3 weeks.
I think it's 6 weeks.
I thought IR was longer still. I don't know, but yeah, it's a penalty, right? PUP in the preseason is like, nah, you can come back in like a few minutes here if you want. I mean, anytime.
Minimum PUP list of 5 minutes, Edwards-Helaire. So they just put you on the PUP list in 5. Not yet. You can't come off the PUP list. 5 minutes. Don't grab your helmet. You got 1 more minute. Okay, go ahead. You can go down the hill
mister,
now.
You didn't land on IR.
You can go down. You can go down the hill now and walk with everybody, and people can go, I thought you were on the PUP list. I love you, Clyde.
If you're still on the PUP list when the season begins, it's at least 4 weeks that you cannot practice or play. If you get put on the PUP list during training camp, it's literally just as long as it takes to say the phrase Clyde Edwards-Helaire physically unable to perform. That's 7 words, and then you're back.
Well, the difference being, if you are put on the PUP list before training camp officially starts, you can then remain on the PUP list and not count against the 53. If you're put on the PUP list during training camp, you must be a part of the 53 to then have your return be within the first 4 weeks.
And you have to make the 53 to be an IR designated a return player.
That's right.
I bet Beards is really glad that we had this discussion about semantics for about 2
Which
or 3
is
minutes
why
after he's going to take a break.
Then Justin Ross on IR because he's just gone because he's not going to make the 53.
Exactly.
So he's going to be out all year. So a lot of things before training camp starts versus after that dictate whether or not you can actually play this year or not. Let's continue going through these real elaborate explanations of what our storylines are. Josh, what did you want to come up with?
Well, so Beards, if we've got time,
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I felt like stuff exploded inside of me.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a couple more minutes here, wrapping up the show. Do want to give an update on Drew Waters and the Omaha Storm Chasers in his big day today. He ends the game going 3 for 3, 2 walks, a 3-run home run, 3 runs scored, and 3 stolen bases. So triples all over the place.
Drew, you're our new Vinny Pasquantino.
Yes, 3 for 3, 3 runs, 3 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. His updated numbers in an Omaha Storm Chaser uniform. He is now batting .326, getting on base at .420, slugging .535 for a .955 OPS in now 11 games with Omaha. Mick, you said in the break that you know who the defensive coordinator is that said Patrick Mahomes is a one-week
by
QB.
deductive reasoning, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
I went with Spags in my conspiracy theory, which I still think is true.
I'm not going to say what mine. We've got 2 others, but I want to know.
Okay.
I want to get mixed clean.
It's either the oldest guy in the world, right? Back in the day where it took John Elway 100, touchdown passes or 95 interceptions to get to 100 touchdown passes, or the youngest guy that's maybe never seen Patrick play. It's a bitter quote right there. At somebody who is lost to him, okay? But not over and over again.
Okay.
So it clearly can't be somebody from the AFC West. I'm like Vizzini on Princess Bride trying to work this thing out.
I hear it.
It's a good rep.
But it's somebody that lost to him. And it's somebody that lost to him who maybe did a good job against Mahomes, who maybe contained him and they still lost. And you know what would add to that bitterness? Is if it happened in a big game. Maybe the biggest game. The Super Bowl. Wait, Nick, you say. Robert Saleh, he's over in New York now. These are current D coordinators. D'Amico Ryans, the current D coordinator. He was the linebackers coach for the 49ers, who one of his guys intercepted Mahomes. It's D'Amico Ryans.
How about that?
What's going on in San Francisco?
The WH